This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee frowns. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 142, submission number 956. The Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Super Mario Brothers Super Show aired in weekday syndication from September 4th to December 1st, 1989 for 65 episodes.
But it did rerun for the entirety of the 89-90 season, just 65 original episodes.
And then they changed it up for the 90-91 season. We'll get to that. Here's the theme music.
Hey, paisanos! It's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show!
With the Mario Brothers and plumbing's a game. We're not like the others who get all the fame. If your sink is in trouble, you can call us on the double. We're faster than the others, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Hooked on the brothers. Yo, you're in for a treat, so hang on to your seat. Get ready for adventure and remarkable feats. You'll meet Koopas and Troopers, the princess and the others. Hanging with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers to the bridge.
So in the 1980s, it seemed like everything had a cartoon, every toy or game, and every cartoon had a toy or game if it didn't previously have a toy or game. I'm thinking stuff like Mask. So I think the Mask cartoon...
Oh, the Mask cartoon was awesome.
It preceded the action figures. Oh, and that's a future submission.
Centurions, Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light.
And I mean, in terms of toys, you have Transformers and G.I. Joe and GoBots and Strawberry Shortcake and Care Bears, My Little Pony. The list goes on and on. That one's for you, Jim. Plural. But now we're talking about a video game. Really, in terms of video games, I think this may have been one of the first cartoons based on a video game, if I remember correctly. Well, okay, hold on. Let me quantify that. Based on what's primarily a home system. We did talk about Saturday Supercade, and we did have the Pac-Man.
That was my money in the bank. That was my money.
That was your well-spent money in the bank. But at least in terms of later 80s episodes, we're talking after the video game crash, which would have been 83, 84. I think this is the first one of those video games that made it to cartoons after the crash. I mean, then you'd have Sonic the Hedgehog and
Pokemon.
Well, obviously we'd have Pokemon, but it would obviously grow more exponentially as we got into the 90s and later. So this is all a sort of landmark series. And I think it's also landmark because not only is it a cartoon based on a video game, but there's also a live action part to this as well.
Yes.
And that's what I think makes it stand out from the rest, honestly, because people remember this show even though it lasted 1 year.
And again, we'll talk about this later, but when they did the big switchover for the second season, it was not well received at all. But again, we'll talk about this later on down the line.
Well, we can maybe add it at the end of the show because I sense there's a sense of relevance that's going to pop up, and not relevance due to our own ignorance, but possibly IMDb's ignorance, kind of, sort of. But we'll get to that later.
So how did the Super Mario Brothers Super Show come about? Well, You have to remember that this was the late 80s, early 90s, and the NES was at its peak. And
it was king. Yes.
It was king. And it got to the point where Mario was as recognizable, and this is a quote from Nintendo, by the way, Mario was as recognizable to kids as Mickey Mouse. So what better way to bake on this than a cartoon series featuring the mustachioed plumber and his little brother Luigi.
Yeah, gotta strike while the iron's hot.
And so that's exactly what Nintendo did when they teamed up with Deke Enterprises' Andy Hayward and Saban Entertainment's Haim Saban and Shuki Levy. And together with Steve Bender, Bob Forward, Eve Forward, and Bruce and Reed Shelley, they created what would be known as the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. 65 episodes of the animated adventures of Mario and his little brother Luigi, in addition to Princess Peach and her trusty retainer Toad. Because remember, this was around the time that Super Mario Bros. 2 came out.
Well, that's what I think this entire series was based around, at least in the cartoons, was Super Mario 2. And if you ask me my opinion, Super Mario 2 is like the weakest of the entire Mario series. Well, I mean, we're talking back 36 years at this point. I think that's the weakest game of anything in Mario the last 36 years.
Well, the thing of it is, Super Mario Bros. 2 is not actually a Mario game per se. It's actually a ROM hack of the Japanese Famicom game Doki Doki Panic.
Well, I get that. I know that. And yeah, in case people listening didn't know that. Yeah, it's based on the Japanese game Doki Doki Panic. And essentially, all that changed were the characters changed from the original characters to Mario and Luigi and Princess Peach and Toad.
Of course, because this was 1989, she would still be known as Princess Toadstool.
Yeah, she wouldn't be Peach yet, but she's still a princess.
Why'd they change it from Princess Toadstool to Princess Peach?
That is a very good question, and I am never one to dodge the very good questions. So it was greenlit for syndication in 1989 for 65 episodes, 42 of which would actually come packaged with original live action sort of shots with the Mario Brothers at their work/home pre-Warp Zone. Because if you remember, they accidentally fell into a warp zone and found themselves in the Mushroom Kingdom and became the resident heroes on call.
You don't say.
Yeah.
In fact, they explain it in the cartoon how this happened.
Play the clip.
Yo, it's the Mario Brothers, and plumbing's the game. Found the secret warp zone while working on the drain. Lend the princess a hand in the mushroom land. Turn the action with the plumbers, you'll be hooked on the brothers. Now, evil Koopa and his troopers are up to misbehaving. They kidnapped the princess, mushroom land needs saving. Abusing and confusing, everybody discovers they can't help but be hooked on the brothers.
So yeah, they got stuck down the drain and somehow it led to a warp zone straight into the Mushroom Kingdom.
How does that happen?
I don't know, Chico, but it does explain in the cartoon intro how they met Princess Toadstool and Toad, because as they got into the drain pipe to the Mushroom Kingdom, they did a cartwheel and knocked over a bunch of Koopa troopers.
They become the resident plumbers/heroes.
Yup, of the Mushroom Kingdom.
And thus a franchise was born.
Yeah. And I also love how in each of the cartoon intros, it always begins with Mario saying plumber's log.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a joke on Star Trek whenever Captain Kirk would say Captain's log.
You misspelled Picard, by the way.
Oh yeah, because Star Trek The Next Generation would be airing around this time.
Yeah. So, we have one half of the show was the animated stuff, and then one half of the show was basically off-the-cuff partially improvised adventures of Mario and Luigi pre-Warp Zone.
I would actually say it's closer to about a third of the show is live action and 2/3 of the show is cartoon. The cartoon runs really close to about 15, 16 minutes. And then actually the live action stuff may be no more than about 7 minutes or so. So you get more cartoon than live action comedy.
True. Because, again, all of this stuff is about, it's pretty extemporaneous. So not much time to build off a story. You're just, making slapstick. You're making funny. And then a special guest drops by somehow, and it figures into the plot in some way.
Oh, and we'll talk about the guests later. The names on this show are amazing.
They are. Yes, they are. But, of course, the two biggest names of the entire half hour would be Mario and Luigi, who are played by one WWE Hall of Famer and one perennial that guy from that thing.
Oh, we've talked about the latter in the past.
Yes, but we haven't talked about the former.
We haven't talked about the former, so I think we should start there.
Well, wait, no, we haven't talked about the former when Mike's around, because we talked about the former in the 1-900 numbers hotline episode last year.
Oh, that's right!
And we all know that his mom raised a great son.
His mom did raise a great son.
We're talking about the one and only WWE Hall of Famer, Captain Louis Albano.
Yes, Captain Lou Albano, the vanguard of the rock and wrestling movement of the late 80s and early 90s.
Oh, yes, with Cyndi Lauper and Girls Just Want to Have Fun and the whole rock and wrestling connection. By the way, Captain Lou Albano is going to come up in a couple weeks when we talk about future installment WrestleMania 2. Because he managed the British Bulldogs in 1986 at WrestleMania 2.
And one thing that was sorely missing from Captain Lou Albano's wardrobe, per se, is his goatee. At least the bottom below his chin was gone, which means you didn't have the rubber band holding his goatee together, his facial hair.
Yep.
But he did have a great mustache on the show.
He had a great mustache.
His mustache was incredible. That's like right up there with Tom Selleck's, I swear to God.
Yeah, it was definitely a mustache. He pulled it off well.
And, of course, you have his younger brother Luigi, played by Danny Wells, who, like I said before, is a perennial that guy from that thing.
His name has come up in the past. He did guest on shows that we've covered in the past, including Sanford Arms, Carter Country, but we've also talked about him on When Things Were Rotten.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he made that guy from That Thing style appearances. 1 or 2 episodes, nothing major.
Sadly, no longer with us, died of cancer in 2013. And fun fact, for fans of the show, Danny Wells' death was poignant because it was in 2013, which was, as dubbed by Nintendo, the year of Luigi.
Ooh.
Because it was Luigi's 30th anniversary that year.
Yep.
Because, of course, he debuted in Mario Brothers.
Right, he debuted in Mario Brothers, right.
Because, as we previously mentioned in the Saturday Supercade episode, the Mario Brothers Atari commercial made it canon that Mario and Luigi were plumbers. And, of course, in Donkey Kong, Mario worked as a carpenter.
Mm-hmm. So, those two would pretty much take up the entire half hour. In the animated part, you have the addition of Princess Peach and Toad and King Koopa. Princess Toadstool, as she was then named, was played by Jeannie Elias, who, holy crap, she is... If we were to talk about all the shows that she's ever played a voice in, we'd be here all day. She does show up in future entry Capital Critters.
Oh, yeah, Capital Critters. Didn't Neil Patrick Harris do a voice in that?
I believe he did, yeah. And to Mike's point, she was in cartoon tie-ins Lady Lovely Locks.
What the hell, Lady Lovely Lux?
I don't know. I just remember seeing commercials in the 80s for stuff, okay? And she was also in Popples, Pound Puppies, My Little Pony, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and she played Trixie on The New Adventures of Speed Racer. And Greg just added Lady Lovely Lux to the list.
Only 23 more until the moratorium.
Yes, sir. Interesting, though, if you remember the Seinfeld episode The Briss, you've seen Jeannie Elias's face because she plays Myra in that episode. So something to look forward to. Anywho, playing her trusted retainer Toad is John Stalker, who pretty much played it with a New York accent, a high pitched New York accent, and again, he was more of a voice director than a voice actor, but he did his fair share of voice acting. And again, if we were to list all of his credits, we'd be here forever. And then we have King Koopa, King Bowser Koopa, played by the late, great Harvey Atkin, which you know and love as Sergeant Ronald Coleman on Cagney and Lacey.
I love the Koopa voice on this show.
Oh, God. He was really... It's like Harvey Atkin was really good with the Koopa voice, and, you know, he could really change it up depending on what Koopa was cooping up the Koopa joint in a particular episode.
Oh, yeah, because he would switch it up depending on the theme of the episode.
Yeah.
There's like a space episode where King Koopa is basically Darth Vader.
And the Wild West episode where he was a no-good claim-jumping varmint. Fun fact, the first English voice of King Koopa was Harvey Atkin. And he was the only actor to appear in this show, and in Super Mario Bros. 3, and in Super Mario World. The other 4 roles would be recast. More on that down the line. And we had a good 52 episodes with the Super Mario Brothers. But there are 65 episodes in the entire series. Well, on Fridays, I ran like a beast home from school because on Fridays, I knew that it was The Legend of Zelda.
Oh yeah, they made it a big deal Monday through Thursday that The Legend of Zelda was going to be on Friday, and they would get you hyped for the Legend of Zelda episode that would be airing on Friday.
Yes, it's like they put 90-second teasers at the end of every episode leading up to that week's episode of The Legend of Zelda. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just watching some clips from this Friday's episode of The Legend of Zelda.
Oh yeah, and I couldn't wait for every Friday to watch it.
Oh my God!
Okay, 2 of the 3 of you share that point of view. I never watched the Super Mario Brothers Super Show on Friday because I am apparently un-American. I hate Zelda.
What? As far as the cast of The Legend of Zelda, again, fully loaded cast. If we were to go over all of their credits, we'd be here forever. So I'll just give you the cast here. We have Jonathan Potts as Link, Cindy Preston as Zelda, Len Carlson as Ganon, Colin Fox as King Harkinian, Zelda's father, also a regular on Sci-Factor, Chronicles of the Paranormal. That's pretty cool. Alan Stewart Coates as the Triforce of Power, which may have had like one line in all 13 episodes. Elizabeth Hanna as the Triforce of Wisdom, and Paulina Gillis as Sprite, the fairy. By the way, when I say Paulina Gillis, I really mean Tabitha St. Germain. And yes, how can I put this? She likes the bronies. She's a fan of the bronies. She plays Rarity. And that all went down for 13 weeks in 1989, and interestingly enough, Captain Lou also made time to play himself in one of the episodes.
What?
Captain Lou played himself in one of the episodes.
As Captain Lou.
As Captain Lou. It's like Mario and Luigi got a message that Captain Lou is missing. So Mario had to step out and look for him, and in comes Captain Lou. Because there was no trickery whatsoever. Whenever one of the characters needed to play a double, either Mario or Luigi would step out for some reason.
and then the other character would come in.
Yeah, and again, and like Mike said, it was a tie-in. It was all a tie-in. And Bill White, who was the then director of advertising and public relations for Nintendo, even admitted as such in the book Game Over. He said, the purpose of the TV series was to boost awareness of the characters. Of course, it helped that there was something coming in 1991? 1990? 1991?
In the U.S., it was 1990, but here it was 1991.
Yeah, it was. Perhaps the greatest adventure of Super Mario Brothers in the world.
We'll get to that later.
Yes, we will. When Hayward came to Nintendo with the idea of how to do the Super Mario Brothers series, he was like, it's a unique property. We had to do it in a different way. We wanted to do a cartoon, but we also wanted a show that extended beyond the cartoon. And you know what? Mission accomplished, because I don't know about you guys, but I've had fond memories of this show.
Oh, same here.
I think we all have memories of different levels of fondness, but we definitely have memories. So on this show, talking about the live action part of the show, you had a myriad of guest stars. I mean, some of them were people that, we maybe didn't necessarily hear of, but there were definitely more names than nobodies. Let's say that.
And we have a couple of guest stars that have been on previous installments. For example, we have Lyle Alzado, who was on previous installment, Learning the Ropes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We had Kay Ballard, who is just legendary. I don't remember what episode she was doing.
And we should add that most of the episodes are on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like all the episodes that had a Mario cartoon are on YouTube. You got to do a little bit of digging to find ones with The Legend of Zelda. And actually, one of the guests that we're going to mention is on the first episode that had a Zelda cartoon. So the first Friday episode.
The first episode of Super Mario Brothers Super Show had Nicole Eggert.
Yes, the first episode had Nicole Eggert as herself.
Yeah, and that was when she was on Charles in Charge a couple of years before she ended up on Baywatch.
In the second episode,
a girl called Patty, it's called Dave the Orphan. A girl called Patty arrives at Mario and Luigi's, claiming to be an orphan without a family or a place to go, so the plumbers invite her in for a stay. Of course, Patty was played by Danica McKellar.
And if you don't know who Danica McKellar is,
what podcast are you even listening to?
2 words. Winnie Cooper.
Come on now. And in the cartoon, Mario becomes the king of Cramalot in order to drive out Koopa's forces. Oh, and by the way, Patty's parents show up. They're played by Jim Ward and Karen Hartman. If I'm not mistaken, Karen Hartman was Talkatoo Cockatoo on Zoobly Zoo. A shame that she's been taking the plumbers for granted, but they enjoy a nice family reunion. Aww. And then you have
Butch Mario and the Luigi Kid.
With Koopa kidnapping Princess Peach in the Wild West.
Ah, but the guest star in this episode, Chico.
In the all steamed up bit, yeah.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, yeah.
And this is great. He's hiding in the Steam-O-Matic in this episode because he's trying to hide from Sergeant Slaughter. And by the time he gets out, he's been in there for so long from hiding from Sergeant Slaughter that Mario becomes shrunk.
Oh, yeah. By the way, there is a mini Mario on that episode.
So that's what happens in real life when Mario gets hit by the Goomba.
Okay, yep. And then there was the episode with Lal Alzado, which was actually the next one over. And we have an episode based on Aladdin, Mario's Magic Carpet. But this is where we meet, it's like Mario and Luigi's cousins? Marianne and Luigina? Who are just Captain Lou and Danny Wells in drag? Breathe, Greg, breathe. And then we get to the first episode of The Legend of Zelda, where Ganon impersonates an amateur magician and tries to steal the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda. By the way, all of the episodes of The Legend of Zelda center around Ganon trying to steal the Triforce of Wisdom from Zelda.
Yeah, because whatever plot is there in Zelda?
It's like it's not like the princess needs rescuing, because Zelda's a real one.
Yeah, she's an independent woman.
She's a strong, independent woman who don't need no Link.
But for real people like me who didn't watch the Zelda cartoons, the live action in this is called, and this is something from the past, Slime Busters. And they weren't trying to get rid of ghosts. No, that's a different license. But they're trying to get rid of little slime monsters around the basement.
One of which possesses Luigi.
Yeah, one of which actually grabs Luigi and pulls him into, I'm guessing, some sort of closet or some area in the basement that we generally don't see. But in this episode, the special guest...
Who are you going to call, Mike?
I'm going to call a Slime Buster because I don't want to get sued. But I'm going to call Ernie Hudson. Ernie Hudson was in this episode.
Yeah, you are.
The one available Ghostbuster from the movie, because everybody else went on to bigger and better things, and he was stuck doing Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Meanwhile, you have Rolling Down the River, where Mario and Luigi help a certain Mark Twang win a riverboat race against Koopa to save the princess and Toad who were kidnapped. And you have a Dr. Frankenstein asking Mario and Luigi to help him with his monster, looking for a brain. Yay. And the next episode is the Great Gladiator Gig. You know what? A lot of episodes. We're just going to go over the particulars here. Okay, this episode has Mario getting hit on the head, getting amnesia, and calling in a specialist, Dr. Sigmund Fruitcake. That is his name, by the way.
Dr. Sigmund Fruitcake.
Played by Larry Gelman, who is another that guy from that thing. And the next one, Bats in the Basement, has a vampire arriving from Transylvania as a foreign exchange student. And then, there's Will the Real Elvis Please Shut Up? Because we have Mario and Luigi playing old Elvis and young Elvis, respectively. And then you have the real Elvis, played by the late, great Fred Travalita.
Oh, and this was so great.
He, as always, nails it.
Oh, yeah. But the best part about this is the very end of the episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elvis has left the basement.
Oh, yeah. And I cheered so hard at that segment as a kid. Elvis has left the basement.
Yep. Okay, and the next one was Magic's Magic, where you have Magic Johnson showing Mario and Luigi magic tricks from inside the medicine cabinet, no less.
Yes, he was inside a medicine cabinet.
Well, that's where we found Nicole Eggert. She was in the medicine cabinet. Well, not her entire body, her head. That was 10. So Mamma Mia Mario is next.
Yeah, which again features Lou and Danny in drag. Lou Albano was playing Mario's mother, and then Danny Wells was playing Aunt Legina. And then you have Alligator Dundee on the next one.
Boy, I wonder what that's supposed to be a takeoff of.
Does this remind you of anything? Then you have, okay. Oh, I love this episode. This next episode was the cartoon was Juggle Beaver, where Mario and Luigi and Toad are hit with itching powder. And then in the live action, as a birthday present from Mario, Luigi gets a free dance lesson from the late, great Shabba-Doo.
Woo!
Yes.
Just passed away recently.
Mm-hmm.
Right before the new year, yes.
Yep. Shabba-Doo. We're talking about Electric Boogaloo, Breakin', the Legend, Turbo, and Ozone, and all them. Woo! And a thing you have to understand about this show is that when they couldn't get the actual celebrity, they got sort of the Family Dollar version of the celebrity.
Oh, you must be talking about this next episode.
Cher's Poochie. Good night, everybody. Cher asks Mario and Luigi to babysit her dog. Of course, it wasn't really Cher. It was a Cher lookalike. And meanwhile, are you ready for this? In the cartoon, Mario and Luigi meet up with another lost plumber from Brooklyn who offers them the chance to return home. Salvador Drainado. I remember his name well. Everybody called him Sal. Then we have a Wild Thing. A wild, loud, and uninvited party ensues in the Mario Brothers plumbing building with Moon Zappa as the guest.
That's all you need to know there. Moon Unit Zappa, thanks for coming.
Yep.
Thank heavens her dad wasn't along. That would have been
Then it would have just been weird.
Yeah, it would have gotten really absurd at that point.
Speaking of really absurd, in the next episode, aside from Toad being sort of drafted into a gang to get all the spaghetti sauce in Carland back, we also have in E.T. the Extra Creepy, Mario's dream date from a computer system turns out to be an alien robot who is played by Clara Carey, who would have been Coach Hayden Fox's daughter on Coach. And okay, Mike, wake up! Somebody wake Mike up! I gotta talk about this.
I'm fully cognizant of this one. Yes.
Okay, so you have the Fire of Hercules, where Mario and Luigi retrain an out-of-shape hero so he can reclaim these stolen Great Balls of Fire from King Koopa. Expect lots of shots of Super Mario and Super Luigi, by the way. In the live show, we have David Horowitz interviewing the Mario Brothers on worldwide television about their Mario Brothers clog cleaner dissolving any clog in 3 minutes or less. Suffice it to say, it does not go over well.
Oh, and also, now come on, let's not gloss over the fact David Horowitz was on this episode. And seriously, if you don't know who David Horowitz is, this may be the only time you'll hear his name on this podcast. He was the host of an epic series from the 80s, I think even the late 70s, to the early 90s called Fight Back.
Yep.
It was like the ultimate consumer protection show. It was like must-see TV in our household 30, 40 years ago at like 6 in the morning on Sunday mornings. Oh my gosh. Fight Back is legendary. If you've never heard of it or never seen it, just find the theme song. Here, we're going to put a little of it right here because the theme song is an absolute. It's not a bop necessarily.
Damn right, it's a bop, Mike.
Well, but it's not a bop in the conventional sense that we've talked about in other shows. It's a great theme song, though. Enjoy. But enough about Fight Back. Next on the list is, well, we have Count Coopula.
Yep.
Count Coopula. I wonder what that's supposed to be a takeoff of.
You could take 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count.
Right.
And in live, we have Magician, where Harry Blackstone visits Luigi.
And again, if you don't know who Harry Blackstone is, well, we can't help you out there. No, we can definitely help you out. Harry Blackstone, at least back in that time, late 80s, he had the occasional segment on Square One TV.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what Square One TV is, we can't help you with that. We definitely can.
Next up, the Pirates of Koopa, a takeoff of the Pirates of Penzance, obviously. And then Magic Johnson is back in Do You Believe in Magic, asking Luigi to repair one of his trophies. They never ask Mario to do much. What's up with that? And then in episode 20, we have Kiss and Tell, where Link is placed under a spell that turns him into a frogman. And in Mommy's Curse, a cooking mishap turns Luigi into a zombie.
Yeah, but look at who the guest star on this is.
Elvira and her incredible talent.
Oh, yeah.
Wink, wink, wink.
By the way, that episode was only shown once.
I wonder why.
But I do remember that this episode was available to own on VHS because the episodes of the Super Mario Bros. Show were distributed through Kids Classics, which was the children's line for Good Times Home Video.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I also remember they would have a Nestle Quick ad before each tape.
Okay, and the next episode, Two Plumbers and a Baby.
Gee, what is this a takeoff of?
Yeah, somebody turns Princess Peach into a baby after she falls into Koopa's Fountain of Youth. That has a really good ending, by the way. But in the live action, we have Lost Dog, where we have the Cher impersonator from earlier playing just another lady who lost her dog. And then in the next episode, The Adventures of Sherlock Mario. Does this remind you of anything? And in Plumbers of the Year, the Grand Poobah of Plumbing, played by Marty Allen, arrives to announce Mario and Luigi have been elected Plumbers of the Year, but leaks in the plumbing cause him to want to change his mind. By the way, Marty Allen, just one of the great vaudeville comedians of old.
Oh yeah, he was terrific in this episode.
This is one of the better animated episodes. Do you, Princess Toadstool, take this Koopa? In order to free the Super Mario Brothers and the Mushroom People, Princess Toadstool agrees to marry Koopa, which would make him the legal ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom. Some backhanded chicanery ensues.
I think we see Koopa's mother in this episode.
Yes, we do.
Oh my god! Koopa's mother! She looks like...
Oh wait, it gets better.
She looks like Tina Turner!
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, it gets better. In the live action, Mario and Luigi's hillbilly cousins make themselves too much at home and end up socializing with a girl named Ellie Mae, played by Donna Douglas. Then you have the Pied Koopa, where Koopa uses a flute to lure all of the children of Pastaland into his castle. By the way, you will hear Pastaland again. And Mario and Luigi use a plant-growing antidote presented by a salesman to use on Mario's mother's dying plant, played by Patrick Dempsey, I think?
Yeah!
But it grows into a giant plant monster after Mario adds too much of it.
This has to be the best guest spot ever. Patrick Dempsey is playing a plant.
McDreamy as a plant. And then on the Friday show, we have Sing for the Unicorn, where Ganon steals a unicorn from a warrior girl named Sing and kidnaps King Harkinian in order to trade him for the Drivers of Wisdom. And in the live action, Mario and Luigi teach Fred Van Winkle, played by previous century Norman Bell, who was sleeping for over a century.
Boy, did the Ropers put him to sleep for a while.
Hey, at least he's not losing any dogs this time.
Nope. Next, we have Dollar General Suzanne Ross, wanting to ask the Mario Brothers to act as her backup singers in Baby Mario Love, and in the animated show, it's Koopenstein. Which turns Koopa into his own raging creation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And next is 9001, a Mario Odyssey.
get it? It's a play on 2001.
Yep. Where we have a new pizza-making machine taking over the Mario Brothers plumbing building. His name, HAL 9001. And then you have Mario and Juliet. It's based on Romeo and Juliet, obviously. And in Fake Bro, a schemer, in order to get rich quick, pretends to be Mario and Luigi's missing brother.
Oh, but we need to talk about who played the missing brother.
Yes, sir, we do.
Oh, my gosh. Now, the name may not be big, but if you've seen a certain show that we've covered twice on this podcast...
He means the match game Hollywood swears out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wonder which one we've covered twice. Oh, yeah. Show 1 and Show 100, Match Game Hollywood Squares. 1 week had a person named Vic Dunlop, who is a little out there, quite the interrupter. He interrupted quite a few of the Hollywood Squares games with his goofiness. Vic Dunlop played the fake Mario Bro.
What, who was he, Wario?
No, I don't think it was
He
Wario.
could be Wario. He could be Wario.
Yeah, I don't think it was Waluigi either, no.
Between this and the finale of WandaVision, I've had enough of people playing fake siblings. I'm sorry.
Well, he didn't play Wario. I wonder if this is maybe sort of like a prototype of Wario.
Oh, definitely.
He played Pietro Mario.
Pietro Mario. The lost Mario brother, Pietro Mario.
Yeah.
Never heard of him. Anyway.
Oh, Jesus, and he's named Pietro, too. Oh, my God.
Episode 29, Too Hot to Handle. Koopa and Fry Guy use a baked volcano god to trick a tribe of islanders into sacrificing Princess Peach. Meanwhile, Luigi buys a watch that runs backwards from a mysterious salesperson. And soon he does everything backwards, including eating and speaking.
Playing that salesperson.
Oh, just say it already, Mike.
I'm going to, but I'm so excited I can't hold it in anymore. Knee troubles!
Next is a Friday show, so we have Mario and Luigi attempting to get Little Robert, a.k.a. Dollar Store Little Richard, to sing on tape. And in The Legend of Zelda, Ganon uses the power of an ancient magnet to pull Castle Hyrule into the Underworld in order to grab the Triforce of Wisdom easily. Next is Flower Power, where a taste of spaghetti sauce with seeds in it causes Luigi to grow fruits and vegetables out of his body. And in the guest role, we have Scott Nemes, who would be on It's Gary Shandling's show at the time.
Yes, he would be.
And the cartoon is Hooded Robin and his Mario Men. The guys was thwart the Sheriff of Coopingham.
I don't get that.
No, I didn't think you would. Next, another vampire story, Vampire Until Ready, with the animated episode 20,000 Koopas Under the Sea. And then we have Mighty McMario and the Pot of Gold, which is sort of based on Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And in the live action, we have Heartthrob, where Rob Stone, yes, that Rob Stone.
Not the Rob Stone from FS1.
No.
The Rob Stone from Mr. Belvedere.
Yes. Has to stay with the Mario Brothers to hide from a mob of fans, to the point where he dresses like one of the brothers.
Yes, as a matter of fact, he dresses as Luigi at one point in the episode.
Which is pretty genius if you think about it. Then we have Mario meets Koopzilla. After eating super sushi, Koopa has grown enormous and is terrorizing the city of Sayonara. Oh, yeah. Also, Mario and Luigi, anxious to find out what prize they won in a sweepstakes, consult a fortune teller, played by Kay Ballard, for help. Much to their dismay, the fortune teller herself ends up as the prize. And next is a Friday episode, and one of the better Zeldas, Doppelganger, where Link falls in love with an evil version of Zelda.
Ooh!
Guess what she has to do? collect the Triforce of Wisdom. And in The Magic Glove, Mad Donna's car breaks down and asks the Mario Brothers to use their phone. However, Mario places a love apple on the table, and when Mad Donna eats it, she falls in love with Mario. Notice I was very careful in saying that character's name, because does this remind you of anybody? In Koopa Claus, Koopa's kidnapped Santa Claus in order to ruin Christmas, and Princess Peach is angry at Toad for seemingly caring about his snowboard more than wanting to save Santa. And in Little Mario's, when a runaway boy plans to stay with the Marios, the brothers recall a time in their youth when Mario also ran away from home. The little boy was played by Brian Bonsall, who at this point would either be on the final season or just wrapping up Family Ties.
Family Ties would have just ended on NBC in the spring of '89.
Yeah, 89 would have been the end of Family Ties, so he was on the unemployment line.
But he wouldn't be unemployed for long because he would be on Star Trek The Next Generation as Worf's kid.
Yep. And then Mario and the Red Baron, Koopa. And in the live action, you have Gorilla My Dreams. Oh, sorry. Gorilla My Dreams.
Oh, I bet you Mike Francesa was very happy about this episode.
Yeah, you have this gorilla, right? You have this gorilla. He escapes from the zoo, escapes from the circus. That sounds familiar. Sounds like something Mario may have done before. He winds up invading Mario Brothers Plumbing, probably looking for Mario, trying to get up in his face. Sounded like Soupy Sales almost. Oh god, that is doing a number on my throat here. Next is the Unzapables, parody of the Untouchables, and George Washington slept here. In order to drum up more business, the Marios claim that George Washington once slept in their building. This causes an angry ghost of Washington to visit the brothers.
What?
Yeah. And in Bad Rap, the entire episode was done in rhyme. Yeah. And Sergeant Slaughter makes a return appearance in Caught in a Draft, where Mario and Luigi discover they've been drafted by the military, and Sergeant Slaughter shows up to train them.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
So what, Mario and Luigi are going to get recruited by G.I. Joe?
Yeah. This was before the Warp Zone. And again, this is probably the best Legend of Zelda episode. Underworld connections. Buyers bomb the Triforce of Wisdom into 3 parts and fly off with 2 of them, but quick thinking on Link and Zelda's part zap the buyers by dropping the pieces into different areas of the underworld, forcing Link and Zelda to race towards Death Mountain to grab the pieces before Ganon does. Because the Triforce is hidden in the underworld levels, people. And also one of the best live-action shots. Inspector Gadget, played by Maurice LaMarche, arrives at Mario Brothers Plumbing in need of repairs. And if you don't know who Maurice LaMarche is...
We've already talked about him on The Critic.
Yeah, he did Orson Welles in those commercials.
Rosebud.
Yes, rosebud frozen peas, full of country goodness and green penis. Wait, that's terrible. I quit. Just a handful for the road. Oh, what luck. There's a French fry stuck in my beard. Oh, yes.
Well, also, beyond that, Maurice LaMarche was the brain in Pinky and the Brain.
Yes! Still is.
Yes!
Still is.
Still is, yes. So yeah, if you don't remember him as Orson Welles, he pretty much did the same voice as Pinky on Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. No excuse, you shouldn't know that.
Yep. Next is the Mark of Zero, as in the Mark of Zero.
Does this sound familiar? I'm sorry, that's your line. You've already said that like 3 times.
5, but who's counting?
Yeah, apparently
and Inspector Clean, played by Gary Schwartz, who was in an episode earlier, from the Board of Sanitation, comes to inspect Mario Brothers Plumbing and finds a hair clog on his head as a toupee. And then you have the 10 Coop Commandments, and I'm not going to say anything about that. And another player, Larry Gelman, played Vincent Van Gook to arrive to give Luigi art lessons. And in The Koopas Are Coming, Mario and company help General George Washington free the mushroom people from Koopa's redcoats. And when Tullio the Wrench becomes angry with Mario for asking his sister out, the brothers turn to help from Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Arsenio Sonny Trinidad. We're running out of names here, folks. The Trojan Koopa, based on the Trojan horse, and then Texas Tea, the Mario strike oil, and try to sell it to Ted Bull, played by Norman Bell. Stinging a Stinger, Sleaze Nose, a crooked peddler, sells Link a defective sword. When Link and Zelda captured, Sleaze Nose offers to sell Ganon's Link's sword, but he turns on the peddler and imprisons him with Link and Zelda. The three must now work together, escape Death Mountain, and stop Ganon. And in the Great Hereafter, after a dream about their grandmother, Mario calls in a psychic, played by Elaine Kogan, to try to communicate with the deceased Grandma Mario. In Quest for Pizza, Mario gets bitten by a venomous snake in Caveman Land, and the only way they can save him is to feed him a pizza, which they must make from scratch. This is before the age of YouTube. And in the painting, Mario and Luigi find a lost painting that was apparently painted by Leonardo da Vinci Rooney, according to guest curator Howard Stevens. But it was actually a forgery, because it was painted by his cousin, Leonardo da Vinci Mahoney. We know it's a forgery because he put in a picture of his brother, Roy Orbisoni Mahoney.
Oh my gosh.
I remember that episode fondly. I also remember this episode, the Great Gold Coin Rush, where Mario's group accidentally discovers a cavern full of gold coins, and Koopa finds out and forces the local villagers and Toad to mine them all for himself. Meanwhile, in the plumbing building, Luigi gets a bonk on the head and imagines himself as a game show host. Jim Lang comes to visit and try and talk him out of it, and hilarity ensues.
Oh, yeah.
Much hilarity. I think this might have been the last on-screen visage of Jim Lang before the game show moment specials of the early 2000s.
Well, you're actually wrong.
Oh, I'm wrong.
I add this for one reason and one reason only, and when you hear it, I'm sure Greg will chime in with his 2 cents. He played a game show host, believe it or not, Greg.
Yeah.
On Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Oh, that's terrific.
I remember that episode now.
I will guarantee you $1 million what happened. Parker Lewis didn't lose.
No, and the thing is, actually, the episode title is called Parker Lewis Can't Win. And also, there's actually one other one we should add. He played a himself, apparently, on an episode of Moesha in 1998.
Ooh, Moesha with Brandy.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he did have a couple of spot appearances in the 90s between this and again, the most outrageous game show moments back around 2002.
Elvin lives. While trying to find the missing Elvin Parsley, Koopa kidnaps the princess and forces her to be his girlfriend. And in home radio, when the Marios win a contest, they must appear on the radio the next day with Gary Owens. And then, this is an episode that speaks to the time. We have Plumbers Academy, which Mario retells the story of how he and Luigi became plumbers, after the whole Carpenter thing fell through. Soviet General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev, played obviously by a body double, comes to Mario Brothers Plumbing after hearing they make the best pizza.
So Mikhail Gorbachev has decided, you know what? I have to go to Brooklyn and meet these two plumbers in their basement.
He's like, I'm in Brooklyn, New York. I need to visit best pizza in America. I need to visit basement of plumbers.
Yes, because he has been told that they make the best pizza in New York, which is debatable.
Yeah. Next is Hitch in the Works, another Zelda episode. Zelda's wearing a necklace. Zelda agrees to marry Ganon. Link has to rescue her before it's too late. Yeah. And in Treasure of the Sierra, Brooklyn, Mario finds a treasure map in their apartment, and the brothers ask Inspector Gadget to help search for the treasure. And I don't care what you said, Maurice LaMarche nailed it. In Karate Koopa, Koopa kidnaps Princess Toadstool and Toad. Mario and Luigi turn to a karate master for help. And in Addy Don't, the brothers call in Tawny Tyler, played by Melanie Charnoff, speaking of Parker Lewis, to help them come up with an advertising jingle. When plumbing clogs or something says, don't call your dog or mother. We're really fast and really cheap, 'cause we're the Mario Brothers.
Ah, jeez.
I remember all of this stuff, dude.
And recall that we talked about Melanie Charnoff not that long ago, because she made an appearance on Oh Madeline.
And we'll talk about her again when we eventually cover Fridays.
Yeah.
Yes, we will.
And maybe in the year review special, depending on when the reboot of Rugrats drops. In Mario of the Apes, Mario suffers from amnesia and thinks he's Tarzan.
Oh, no.
Well, he just thought he was a game show host, so why not?
No, it was Luigi who thought he was a game show host.
Oh, it's Luigi. I'm sorry. I thought you said that, Luigi. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah. And Mario sets out to perform a series of tasks with Chippy Chipmunk's Chipmunk of the Month, awarded by Fred Tramelina. Again, Princess I Shrunk the Mario Brothers.
Oh, yeah, because this isn't timely at all.
Way to date yourself, kid. And in a basement divided, an argument between the brothers escalates until they are forced to call in a psychotherapist. Little Red Riding Princess. We have a visit to Grandma Toadstool, but she's pursued by both Koopa and the Big Bad Wolf. In no way to treat a queenie, during a visit from the Queen of the United Kingdom, the Queen appears at Mario Brothers Plumbing, wanting to fit in with the commoners, as she is sick of being treated like royalty.
Did the Queen get a recommendation to Mario Brothers Plumbing from Mikhail Gorbachev? Queen, I got to tell you, these two plumbers, I hear that they have the best pizza in New York. I went to visit them, and oh my god, their pizza was amazing.
Magic Johnson likes them a lot. Anyway. In Fairies in the Spring, we have water-shaped creatures causing problems at Hyrule's new water park. Yeah, and in Pizza Crush, a pizza delivery lady says that she adores a man who can eat his weight in pizza.
Oh, no!
Mario attempts to do just that. And do you know who plays the pizza delivery lady?
Who?
Eve Plum!
Oh, yes! Jan.
Well, Jan Brady always wanted to be noticed. In The Provolone Ranger, Koopa kidnaps Luigi, the Princess, and Toad in Sudden Death Valley. Mario becomes the Provolone Ranger. And Mario and Luigi must babysit a fish for Mrs. Periwinkle, played by... Say it, Mike!
Nidra Voles.
You know you love that, Nidra Voles.
Who doesn't love Nidra Voles? Shut up, Greg.
Next episode, Escape from Koopatraz. Yeah. And in French, Luigi attempts to learn French in order to sound classier. Guest starring Courtney Gibbs. Who that girl be?
Hold up.
Oh gosh, he's gonna find out who that girl is.
Okay, she wasn't in much. She was on a couple of episodes of All My Children, but she was in the 1989 Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan classic Joe vs. the Volcano as saleswoman. And actually, according to IMDb, she was actually Miss Texas in 1988.
Oh, good for her. In Mario of the Deep, the guys try to say Aqualand from Koopa, and in Two Bums from Brooklyn, baseball manager Tommy Lasagna arrives to sample Mario's meatballs for his restaurant and hires the Marios to sell peanuts at his ballpark. In Flatbush Koopa, Mario and Luigi finally return to Brooklyn, only to learn that Koopa has taken over the city.
It took them that many episodes for them to finally get to an episode where they get back to Brooklyn.
Yep, and in the end, they just go back to Mushroom Land. And Karen Hartman returns in Opera, where the Marios become fed up with the singing of would-be opera singer Mrs. Gamlis, who lives in their apartment building. And this was the Missing Link episode of Zelda, where we have Link becomes incorporeal after a magic blow by Ganon, and Zelda must reclaim his body inside Death Mountain. Yep, Ganon finally kills Link.
Oh, finally?
It's not so much killing as it is a near-death experience.
Oh.
Sorry.
That would have been incredibly dark for a kid's show.
Raiders of the Lost Mushroom. Raiders of the Lost Ark. Cyrano de Mario. A letter from an old friend, played by Vanna White, convinces Mario that she intends to marry him, but reveals later on she just wanted her bathtub fixed.
What is it with stuff that we've covered lately where Vanna White wants to get married to somebody?
It's like, she doesn't want to marry one of the Mario brothers, does she? Because that would just be strange.
It was one thing when she was trying to marry David Naughton.
Yeah, we all heard that story before. It was a lovely story, and I will never talk about it again. The next episode, Crocodile Mario, where we have, are you ready for this? A magical statue that repels crocodiles, and the guys have to retrieve it. Basically being Crocodile Dundee. And in Rowdy Roddy's Rotten Pipes, oh god, are you ready for this?
Oh yeah, this is great.
Rowdy Roddy Piper visits the guys who accidentally turn his bagpipes into a vacuum cleaner.
Oh, let's just play the clip.
Rowdy Roddy Piper, that mean and huge wrestler, is going to be here any minute. Could you give me a little hand here, Mario?
Yeah. What's the matter, Luigi? I mean, what's the matter?
Look, Rowdy Roddy Piper, that mean wrestler, he left his bagpipes here for me to fix them. I can't find them anywhere.
Yeah, you meatball, we're plumbers. We don't fix bagpipes.
Yeah, I know that, and you know that, but I wasn't going to tell Rowdy Roddy Piper that. What am I going to do?
Yeah, vacuum him a little bit. It'll relax, you know, while I get the door.
All right. Yo, Mario. Yeah, where do we get this vacuum cleaner? Sure looks familiar.
I fixed it with some old junk I had laying around the house. Oh, Luigi, it's not Rowdy Roddy Piper. It's some hairy lady with the plant dress.
Now that's a mistake most people make just once. My name is Rowdy Roddy Piper, and I want my bagpipes.
Hey, I was only kidding, Roddy. I mean, but I'll tell you the truth, I wouldn't wear a skirt, especially in the streets of Brooklyn.
I want my antique family heirloom bagpipes.
Well...
Uh-oh.
Aren't those my bagpipes?
No, sir, big angry person. This is an imported Scottish vacuum that comes directly from the McBronx Vacuum Company, one of a kind and original.
Bronx?
Yes, sir, McBronx.
Then turn it off.
Yes, sir. Mario, something tells me we blew it.
We're losing Greg.
Greg is deceased.
And this was around the time when Rowdy Roddy Piper was going nuts on WWF Primetime Wrestling about Bobby Heenan saying that there was no Santa Claus.
And the next episode, Star Koopa. This is where Koopa is dressed as Darth Vader, and in Santa Claus is Coming to Flatbush, Santa Claus appears at the Mario's home after his sled is stolen.
Don't worry, there's only 2 more episodes, 63 down, 2 to go.
In Robo Koopa, Koopa uses a robo suit to kidnap the Princess and Toad. The suit's inventor then builds Mario and Luigi a suit of their own so they can fight Koopa. This sounds like the direct genesis of the movie. I'm sorry.
It could
and
be.
in Captain Lou is Missing, Cyndi Lauper, wanting to go on a picnic with Captain Lou Albano, gets a note from him with an important part of the note accidentally torn down. This leads her to think he left for good.
Oh, no.
No! Of course, Lou Albano plays both Mario and the Captain.
And we should make the obvious connection between Captain Lou Albano and Cyndi Lauper. Her first big song, Girls Just Want to Have Fun. If you've never seen that video, there's Captain Lou playing her dad.
And that was the song that was basically the start of the rock and wrestling connection in the 80s.
Yes.
That led to the first WrestleMania. But more about that in about 2.5 weeks.
Yes. And then you have the final episode of The Legend of Zelda. The Moblins are revolting. After Ganon blames his monsters for repeated failed attempts, the Moblins convince every monster to rebel against Ganon, imprison him with his own magic, and take over Hyrule on their own. And then there's the Ghoul of My Dreams, which, actually, this is the episode that only aired once. Mario must help Elvira deal with a mummy. That was the episode that only aired once.
Okay.
But also it did have Elvira.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, taking a look at IMDb's episode guide, and I mentioned this about what was it? The Powers of Matthew Starr. The last episode, the one that was done by that was directed and produced by Louis Gossett Jr. had like a higher rating than the others, like a significantly higher rating.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. Look at the general overall ratings for the shows. They're in this between 5 and 6 stars generally. The one with Elvira, 8.3 stars.
Gee, I wonder why.
Exactly.
But again, this was all really good and very memorable stuff and somewhat silly, but we all loved it. Then for some reason, because it started like really popular, but it sort of declined in the ratings. So for some reason, for season 2, they repackaged the cartoon segments as part of something called Club Mario. With 2, I don't even know who guys, hosting from their penthouse in somewhere in the city. And they did like satellite surfing, whatever the devil that is, where they were just spending the live action bit just watching random clips. And also repurposed Photon episodes, if you remember that.
And I'm just going to mention a couple of names really fast that apparently appeared on that version of the show. One was Mel Blanc, it looks like. And if you don't know who Mel Blanc is, obviously, you know, why are you here? But hey, we love you here, so don't leave. But the second one, and this one, I sort of promoted to Chico and Greg as like the ultimate jaw dropper. I'm going to have to take some flights tomorrow across the country to pick up their jaws because their jaws are going to drop like you won't believe. There's a character named Dr. Know-It-All that appeared on 2 episodes, and the person who played him is Kurt Weldon.
What?
And the name... Well, hold on. Calm thyself down. I think you know who Kurt Weldon is, at least in one respect. He was a big, huge winner on the Challengers back in 1990. I hope that's where you know him from.
That's where I know him from.
Okay. Where you don't know him from, or potentially don't know him from, he was on Jeopardy back in 1986, 85, I believe. Now, hold on. Take a seat because you're going to fall out of your chair. When he lost, do you know who beat him?
Chuck Forrest.
No, not Chuck Forrest. Good guess. That was second season. Good guess.
No idea.
Sit down. We mentioned this person last week, believe it or not. Randy Amasia.
Oh, I miss him.
Oh, we all miss him, but it's just absolutely amazing. And Randy, when I first met him, we're talking 25 years ago or so, I saw his Jeopardy episode, and I saw Kurt Weldon. It's like, I know that guy from somewhere. Oh, yeah, he was a big, huge winner on the Challengers. But lo and behold, our friend, he's been gone for 2 decades now, but our friend Randy Amasia beat him. How about that?
How about that indeed?
It's just amazing. I'm looking at the cast list on IMDb. The second to last name is Kurt Weldon, and it's like, are you kidding me? That's absolutely got to be mentioned, even if it's sort of like a kind of sort of mistake by IMDb. But you talked about that second season, and that definitely falls in line with 1990-91.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had that little nugget stuffed in my pocket, ready to share it with you guys.
You were ready to fire with that.
Oh, that, like I said, that was the little fact to end all facts that we've had on this this podcast. That was a mind blower, to say the least.
Yeah, it was. So, again, this is all a bunch of stuff that we really like to remember. And Greg, you said you had the VHS. Let's just say you don't have a VHS anymore.
Oh, yeah, because now you can get the series on DVD, people.
And as I mentioned earlier, you can find all 52 Mario cartoon episodes with the segment. With most of them have the segments with them, the live action segments. But if you want to find episodes with Legend of Zelda, you actually have to search for Super Mario Brothers Super Show: The Legend of Zelda. And I saw one, and that was the first one with Ernie Hudson. But it's been released on home video. It's been released on DVD. It can be found if you don't want to go the YouTube route. But there's at least 2 or 3 people who've posted every single one of those 52 Mario episodes. So it's not like it's terribly hard to find.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, it has a place in history, and it has a place in our hearts. And in 1989 and 1990, you know what the Super Mario Brothers Super Show was?
It was a darn good thing on TV. It was a part of my childhood.
It was a thing on TV that I ran home to watch.
Yeah.
And everybody, before we go, we usually don't do this. We usually throw in a little clip at the end. But we want everybody to get ready to do the Mario at the end. And also, don't forget, if you've seen the show, don't forget that last little note. Mario steps like a quarter of a second after it. They couldn't get it properly edited. We'd love for you to do that, where you're just like that, da, 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 and then step like a quarter second later.
Yep. Everybody get up. Everybody get up.
Till next time, everybody.
Mario!
Wow!
Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario, take one step, and then again, let's do the Mario all together now. You got it. It's the Mario. Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario, take one step, and then again, let's do the Mario all together now. Come on now, just like that.
He was a living legend. She was the innocent girl who dared to face a violent West to love him.
I want you to be my wife.
But a date with destiny would stand in their way.
You tell your boyfriend we'll be down at the OK Corral.
Marie Osmond and Bruce Boxleitner star in I'm Married, Wyatt Earp. Next. Tuesday, Dr. Fiskus treats a patient who took a stab at golf.
This happened on the golf course, sir? If I were you, I'd find a friendlier foursome.
Say elsewhere. Wednesday, real people meet some models who are real pigs. Then Blair's obsessed with her boyfriend, and the girls try to deprogram her.
You have to go cold turkey.
And get ready for TV's best loved families.
I'm ready.
Family Time. Then, is Quincy guilty of arson?
This is not a courtroom. This is an inquisition.
Quincy.
Wednesday's going to be great on NBC.
This is NBC News Capsule, sponsored by GTE. Here is Linda Ellerby.
Good evening. Inmates at the Ossining Prison, north of New York City, tonight said over a bullhorn they've released 4 hostages in exchange for cigarettes and food. That would leave 13 guards still held hostage. The siege began 2 days ago. Earlier today, state officials offered the inmates a deal which has not yet been accepted. More in a moment.
Imagine solar-powered telephone calls. Gee. No, GTE.
NBC News correspondent Lisa Myers reports tonight that Senate Majority Leader Howard Baker will soon announce he won't run for re-election in 1984. He may instead seek the Republican presidential nomination. I'm Linda Ellerby in New York. More news later on this NBC station and on NBC News overnight.
Here's the Nickelodeon Games Report, brought to you by Green Slime, the official gooey slop of the 1988 Nickelodeon Games. When we last saw Dennis, he was completing the final leg of the Dining Room Dad Dash. Now he's flying at a record-setting pace in the Kids Only Cleanest Closet competition. And talk about records! These cruising ballooners battered all the world marks at today's Feet Floating Flipper Finals. Meanwhile, Gadget was stretching his lead in the treacherous Inspectathon. But can Timmy repeat as world champion Lassie Looper? Yes! Let's see that again in super slow-mo. Yes! The competition continues every day on Nickelodeon.
Have you had a rough day? Is school giving you a headache?
Who was the father of our country? Why, that's simple. George, Oh, I'm sorry.
You say you've got too many chores?
They forgot to put out the cat.
Maybe it's time to go loony.
I'm the cat.
With Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon. Daffy, Speedy, Sylvester, Bugs, Tweety, and more. Just when you need them. Every day after school at 5, 4 Central starting tomorrow. On the network with more of what you want. Nickelodeon.
This is Larry Bud Melman with another one of my 5 reasons to ride Melman buses. Reason number 2, children. We realize that small children get cranky on long bus trips, so we've made sure that kids traveling on Melman buses are properly entertained. Children are free to play in the luggage racks and to run up and down the aisles if they want. They're also welcome to sit with the driver. Sure, some of our drivers like kids and may even let them drive for a few miles. Melman buses, because your children are the next generation of Melman bus riders.
Are you ready for WWF action that's really raw? The WWF is bigger and better than ever on USA. I'm Vince McMahon. Join me for WWF Wrestling Monday Night Raw tomorrow night at 9, 8 Central.
When I play Terminator 2 with the Sega Menacer, I'm not afraid of deadly hunter killers, the indestructible T-1000, endless endoskeletons, the evil Skynet. Nothing.
Bobby, come give your Aunt Bertha a big kiss.
Well, almost nothing.
Episode 143, submission number 086, The Golden Palace. The Golden Palace aired on CBS from September 18th, 1992 to May 7th, 1993 for 24 episodes.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be for me. And the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend.
So I think the first thing we need to mention is that was a very familiar theme song, but not in the way that we remember it.
That was a lot closer to the original Andrew Gold version.
Yeah. But at least they kept the same or similar song in there. It's the same song. It's just obviously slightly different in some capacity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this would be a different show in a slightly different capacity.
Well, yeah. Would this technically be considered a spin-off, or would it be a continuation of the Golden Girls? Since really, it's not spinning off to a single character or a minor character. It's the Golden Girls, but now you're down Dorothy Zabornak.
Well, this would be one of the first known sequel series. Not unlike Archie Bunker's Place.
Yeah, I think a sequel series works pretty well in this instance, Chico.
That works really well because Archie Bunker was essentially Archie Bunker, except he owned a bar and Edith had died.
Yeah.
And everybody had moved on except for little Stephanie, basically.
Well, actually, little Stephanie did move on. She was part of the New Radicals with Greg Alexander in the 90s.
And not only that, but they recently performed at Joe Biden's inauguration.
Nice. So with Dorothy having just gotten remarried, where does that leave the other three Golden Girls? Rose Nyland, Sophia Petrillo, and Blanche Devereaux. Because they can't stay in the house anymore. They sold it.
Yeah, they did.
They sold it and they moved on.
Yeah, you even saw them moving out early in the pilot episode.
So what are three Golden Girls to do? Are you ready for this? Find a rundown but not derelict hotel and move in. And also buy a share of it.
Oh!
But here's the thing, though. Because the Golden Girls was a Saturday night success on NBC. Probably the last of the Saturday night successes on NBC. This show would not only jump to Friday night, it would jump to another network. It would be on CBS. It was going to try to take the crown from ABC's TGIF. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
How can I put this delicately? That was not a smart thing to do.
Look, America loves Betty White, but in 1992, America was still in the grips of Urkel fever at this time.
Yes.
Yeah, America liked its Urkel.
It wasn't originally supposed to be the case that CBS got the show, because NBC chief Warren Littlefield was committed to Golden Palace, running 13 episodes on a Saturday. But CBS, in a bit of a coup, decided to make a play for it. Because NBC only committed to 13 episodes, CBS came and said, we'll give you 24 episodes. We'll give you one full season. NBC was not willing to buy into that because of the declining ratings from the 7th season of The Golden Girls. So the producers, Paul Junger-Witt, Tony Thomas, and Susan Harris, decided to sign with CBS and agreed to market the hell out of The Golden Palace as a show with its own voice, separate from The Golden Girls. That would be mistake number 2 of this episode. So we talked about CBS wanting to counter-program against TGIF. They put Golden Palace on with Major Dad, Designing Women, and Bob.
Oh yes, future installment Bob.
Oh, we're going to talk about Bob in the future because that's an installment. That was basically Bob Newhart after Newhart.
Yeah, and it wasn't good at all.
Nope.
I've got it on DVD. I'm going to watch it one day.
Oh good, then we could actually review it.
It's like as soon as Mike watches it, he's going to find a place on the schedule for it.
Expect it sometime around 2024.
Guaranteed. Anyway, we talked about how the 3 remaining Golden Girls decided to move into a hotel, but it's only down to 2 employees. That would be the chef, Chuy Castillos, and the manager / maitre d', Roland Wilson.
There actually was a 3rd employee mentioned in the pilot, which was a part-time maid, but we'd never see the part-time maid.
Aww.
So yeah, to say this hotel was struggling would be a bit of an understatement.
Yep. How that happens, we'll never know. But
well, no, they mentioned that in the pilot too.
Oh, really?
What, did you watch the show? Apparently not. No, no. It's mentioned in the pilot that pretty much the 3 Golden Girls, for lack of a better phrase, they were sold on a hotel that wasn't exactly what it was. The previous management really just did not no upkeep on the hotel, especially in terms of keeping employees around. They had very few customers or hotel guests, I think would be best to say there. It was in financial ruins, essentially. And actually, even in the first episode, there's questioning whether payroll can be met the first week that the girls own the hotel.
Yeah, the term run into the ground comes to mind.
Yeah, run into the ground, but also the deal was more or less a bait and switch. They were promised a good hotel, a secure hotel, one that has enough assets and value to last a while. And instead, it's a hotel that really is days away from closing because of financial ruin.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help in the pilot episode that Chewy, the chef, leaves the job, but comes back and accepts his job after a dispute with Sophia regarding the type of cuisine that he's going to make in his restaurant. He is clearly Mexican, Hispanic, or that's the cuisine he's going to make. And Sophia, obviously, knowing her heritage, we're making Italian. And he leaves right there on the spot because of that difference.
But ultimately, because this is a sitcom, everything works out in the end.
It does. I mean, it's not terribly much of a deviation from the Golden Girls itself. I mean, we heard this pretty much the same theme song. The comedy's still there. It's pretty much the same thing, except they're not in the house anymore. They're at a hotel, and obviously Dorothy's gone. So it's 3/4 of the Golden Girls.
And it seems like with that shift came a shift in characters. Like, for example, Betty White's Rose Nyland is remembered as the ditz with this childlike innocence. In Golden Palace, she is pretty much a headstrong Jill of all trades in the hotel. It's like, you name it, she does it.
She still has some of the Rose Nyland, but it's a deceptive Rose Nyland. She wants people to think that she's naive or gullible, and in the end, she's actually makes a number of the good decisions for the hotel.
It's like she made him, or did she fall into him like Ace Crawford last week? I don't know.
Did she fall off the docket after every episode?
No. Okay. And then you have Rue McClanahan's Blanche Devereaux, who we all remember as she was a working girl, except she didn't work much. But here it was sort of toned down. It's like playful, flirtatious, rather than incredibly flirtatious.
Yeah, they really toned down on the promiscuity jokes.
Yeah. And then you have Sophia, and this is a classic case of real life writing the script, because by this time Estelle Getty would have signs of early onset senile dementia. In fact, according to Truth by Consensus Wikipedia, other members of the cast had noticed Estelle Getty's increased difficulty in remembering lines or relying on cue cards during the series, and toward the end of the previous one, she would not be formally diagnosed with dementia until 2000.
And I wonder, they actually mentioned, again, in the pilot episode, her age, and she was, at least according to the show, 88 years old. Yep. 87, 88. I don't know. Now that you mentioned the dementia, it's almost falls into place. It's sort of the dominoes are falling in place. Yeah,
but remember,
maybe
Estelle Getty was much younger than the role she played.
No, I know that. But I wonder if possibly the dementia played their hand and they revealed her age for some reason. Maybe to make a true to life connection, potentially. But I know,
yes.
But I know she was definitely much younger than 88 for sure.
No, she was at least in her mid-60s. At least. And then you have the two remaining employees of the Golden Palace. First was the chef Chuy Castillos, played by Cheech Marin in his other great role.
Yes. And actually, Greg, do you have something you want to share about who Cheech Marin beat for that role?
Oh yes, because this was recently discussed on Conan, which we'll bring up later. A young Andy Richter auditioned for the role Cheech Marin played on Golden Palace.
Yeah, that was like one of his first auditions when he got to Los Angeles.
And also a year before Andy got the job as Conan's sidekick on Late Night.
Uh-huh. And in addition, a British comedian by the name of Alexei Sayle was originally hired to be the chef, who was supposed to be Eastern European, but for some reason he was replaced with Cheech's character being played as a Mexican.
Well, that probably explains why Andy was auditioning for the role.
Perhaps. And the second employee, Greg.
Yeah?
You want to talk about the second employee? Roland Wilson, hotel manager, the voice of the audience, the voice of sanity.
Who played him?
Well,
you might know him best today as James Rhodey, the star of the upcoming Disney Plus series Armor Wars, the legendary Don Cheadle.
Colonel James Rhodey Rhodes, a.k.a. War Machine, a.k.a. my brother's favorite Avenger.
Hey, Don Cheadle, he's done some great things. He's won an Oscar since this show, but we don't care. To us, he is Colonel James Rhodey, and that's how it is.
Yes. Oh, he is also the big bad in the upcoming theatrical / HBO Max movie, Space Jam: A New Legacy. Pick your bloody jaw up off the ground, people.
Yeah, who would have thought he'd be the Ongo Gablogi in the Space Jam 2?
Looks good, Greg.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Looks good.
Looks good.
It looks good.
Looks good. Looks good. Looks good.
Oh, it looks good.
Looks good.
Oh, it looks good.
Looks good.
Oh, it looks good.
Looks good.
Oh, it looks good.
Looks really good.
Looks good.
And rounding out the cast is a young actor by the name of Billy L. Sullivan, who plays Oliver Webb, the foster child for Roland, who is actually only in 7 of the episodes. He was in the first 6 episodes, and then he came back in episode 14 to be claimed by his birth mother, who was played by Jolie Fisher.
Of course, Jolie Fisher, later of Ellen, and best known as the younger sister of Carrie Fisher.
Yes. So, now you know who's in the Golden Palace, but do you know who stayed there? I don't know either. We could talk about it, though.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, episode 1, The Golden Palace. Blanche, Rose, and Sophia sell their Miami house and purchase the Golden Palace, a hotel in the city. The women meet hotel manager Roland, his foster child Oliver, and hotel chef Chuy Castillos. The women learn that the previous owners had fired much of the staff to make the hotel appear profitable, and the hotel has no money to hire new employees. Furthermore, the ladies have only 1 week to make the hotel's banknote payment, which is dependent on satisfying a group of travel agents booked for the hotel. Sophia and Rose are upset that Blanche for getting them into the situation, but Blanche convinces them that they can operate the hotel and make the business a success. Chuy wants to continue serving Mexican food at the hotel, while Sophia wants to start serving Italian food instead. Chuy crits in frustration, but later asks for his job back, as he and Sophia agree to work together. The women manage to get through the week after hosting the travel agents, making enough money to keep the hotel for another month and hire more staff.
Because, again, remember, there was a part-time maid there, and we never see the maid or hear about the maid doing the sheets or cleaning the rooms or whatnot. And that sort of is a task that's given to Rose Nyland in this episode, or at least in future episodes.
Episode 2, Promotional Considerations.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Rose makes a deal with the producer of a talk show to have a guest of the program stay at the Golden Palace for free in exchange for an ad acknowledging the hotel. However, they learn that the program will be focusing on murderers who are set free, which includes their new hotel guest, Gordon M. Kosei, played by Bobcat Goldthwait. Blanche, Rose, and the other hotel employees are nervous about having Kosei stay at the hotel, and they try to keep him happy as he is easily upset and frequently yells.
Yeah, but there's a twist at the end. It's revealed that Bobcat Goldthwait's character actually is a doctor, not a murderer, But a doctor on the show, like one of the psychoanalysis doctors, saying, why the murderers do what they do. And also, it's very funny. There's actually two things I want to mention about this talk show. First, in the final credits, unlike the Golden Girls, this one usually has some added ending with the credits overlaid on top of the action going on. And what was happening there was a little joke about, and on the next talk show, whatever the name of the show was, I forget the name, we're going to be talking about bedwetters. To which Rose is like, nope, I'm done. No, we're not going to be promoting our hotel here anymore if they're going to be getting murders and bedwetters in our hotel. And I should say adult bedwetters, not children.
Yeah.
Because remember, Rose was doing some of the maid duty at this time, so she had to change the sheet.
He's like, nope.
But another thing I want to mention, and this is directly related to Golden Girls itself, the theme to the talk show. They actually play the theme music or this music when the talk show's happening. Do you guys remember the episode of Golden Girls called Grab That Dough with Jim McCrell?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. The theme music from Grab That Dough was the theme music to the talk show.
Wow.
Yeah. Da, da, da. Yeah, you've heard it. I'm sure I can plug it in. But that was something I noticed when I watched this episode. It's the Grab That Dough music. I wanted to start using my meat hooks to grab some money.
Oh, but Beat the Clock would have been on the air for another 10 years, Mike.
True, but Dorothy had those meat hooks and she was going to make a ton of money with them.
Oh, totally. Episode 3, Miles, We Hardly Knew Ye. While looking through the hotel guest book, Blanche discovers that Rose's boyfriend, Miles Weber, was a frequent guest at the Golden Palace until the ladies purchased it. As Miles has frequently been canceling his dates with Rose lately, Blanche concludes that he's been cheating on Rose. Later, Rose confronts Miles and ends their relationship before he can explain himself. However, Roland clarifies that Miles Weber, who frequents the hotel, was a different man and not Rose's boyfriend, which causes tensions between Rose and Blanche. Miles and Rose reconcile, repeatedly from what I understand, although he has recently fallen in love with another woman, a waitress named Fern. Not wanting to ruin Rose's friendship with Blanche, Miles decides to tell Rose about Fern, revealing that Blanche happened to be right about him. Although Miles still loves Rose too, she decides to break up with him and later reconciles with Blanche. Meanwhile, Sophia discovers that Oliver has been charging guests who want to retrieve their missing items from the hotel's Lost and Found. Oh, that Oliver. By the way, Harold Gould plays Miles.
The legendary Harold Gould, we should say.
Martin Morgenstern from Rhoda.
Also in that episode, playing Lost and Found woman is Mary Pat Gleason, and you sort of know her as that woman from that TV show from the late 80s through pretty much nowadays. Ton of credits on her record. Yeah, just some of them that I'm looking at. She was in Desperate Housewives, and she was on an episode of Family Matters. She was on ER, the Good series, the NBC series with Georgia Clooney. She was on Coach, Blossom. Again, a ton of appearances on shows throughout the years. And actually, she appeared on 2 episodes of previous installment Davis Rules. And she made 2 appearances on Night Court. So there's our tie into Night Court.
Episode 4. One Old Lady to Go. Rose befriends a disoriented elderly woman named Vivian, played by Anne Haney, known as Alberta Meacham from Mama's Family, who is lost and believes that Rose is her daughter Charlene. Rose lets Vivian stay at the Golden Palace, ignoring advice to contact the police. For the past 6 years, Rose has regretted putting her own mother in a retirement home, and she feels she can now make up for it by not letting Vivian wind up in a police shelter, as Vivian reminds Rose of her mother. Meanwhile, a new Chinese restaurant, also called the Golden Palace, has opened in Miami, causing confusion between the 2 businesses. Sophia takes advantage of this by accepting food orders from people who mistakenly contact the hotel. Chewie hires a friend, a woman named Dr. Fogg, played by Margaret Cho, to help prepare the food, which is then delivered by Oliver. Roland discovers the scheme and forces the group to give their earnings to the real Golden Palace restaurant. Roland and Blanche also convince Rose to contact the police to help locate Vivian's family. When the police arrive at the hotel, they initially take Sophia by mistake, believing she is Vivian. Eventually, Vivian is reunited with her daughter, Charlene, who's played by Annie O'Donnell. I have no idea who she is. And meanwhile, in the C plot, Roland is hesitant to have a talk with Oliver about going through the change, let's say. You know, the change relations.
Oh, that change.
Yeah. You know, it's like what every father dreads having to talk with his son, and Roland and Oliver are no exception. Are you ready for your Star Trek The Next Generation connection? She was Rashawn Uxbridge in The Survivors, about a group of colonists inhabiting a colony where all but two of the inhabitants have been killed by an attacker. And she's one of the survivors who refuses to be rescued. Go figure. Episode 5, Ebb Tide for the Defense. The hotel's insurance company declines to renew its policy following a mishap in which Rose covered the hotel pool while unaware that people were still in it. Yep, that sounds like something she would do. The hotel is hosting a convention of lawyers, and Rose has booked the remaining rooms for a group of judges from Jacksonville, Florida. Because Rose has accidentally overbooked the hotel, she, Blanche, and Sophia agree to share a room, while Roland, Chewie, and Oliver share another. They also convince one of the lawyers, Mr. Burroughs, played by Steve Hittner, another that guy from That Thing, to share a room with one of the judges. However, the hotel employees realize that the judges of Jacksonville are actually a biker group. And Burroughs threatens legal action if anything should happen to him while he's staying with his roommate, a biker named Angel, played by Christopher Collins, who voiced Moe and Mr. Burns on the first season of The Simpsons.
I think also we should mention that the use of the word ebb tide is not unusual within Golden Girls canon, because during the Golden Girls series, there were at least 2, maybe even 3 episodes previously that had to do with ebb tide.
Ah.
Yeah, so I think that was a continuation on that trend. Obviously, they didn't have terribly good luck dealing with the ebb tides.
No. Meanwhile, in the B-plot, the hotel hires a second chef named Reuben, played by the late, great Gregory Sierra, the man who had sex with Chewie's now estranged wife. Hello. Chewie and Reuben have been best friends since childhood, and Chewie eventually forgives Reuben. Episode 6, Can't Stand Losing You. Rose believes that Roland is lonely and should have a girlfriend, and she convinced Blanche to compete with her in finding a woman for him. Rose finds a woman named Joanne, who Roland likes. Joanne, by the way, is played by Monica Allison, who played Hazel Gordy in future entry The Jacksons: An American Dream. Lovely lady, this Monica Allison. Blanche learns that Roland had an ex-girlfriend named Trisha and decides to have her fly to Miami to see him, thinking that Roland still likes Trisha. Playing Trisha is Kim Fields.
Tootie!
Yeah, this was like a year or 2 before Living Single, by the way, so...
Yeah, I was going to say, this would be like a year or 2 before Living Single, because that would have been 93, 94?
Yep. However, Blanche learns that Trisha is overly affectionate and obsessed with Roland, who had lied to Trisha about moving elsewhere to become a priest in order to end their relationship. Roland eventually tells Trisha the truth, that he is not in love with her, and she accepts it. Meanwhile, Sophia is upset that Chewie is chosen instead of her to go on a television program for a cooking segment. Because of course she is. Alright, okay. Are you guys ready for this?
Oh yeah, bring it on. This one's a good one.
This is a good one. Episode 7, Seems Like Old Times, Part 1. Dorothy visits the Golden Palace for the first time and reunites with Blanche, Rose, and Sophia after 4 months. Dorothy is shocked at how hard Sophia is working at the hotel, although Sophia does not consider this to be an issue. Dorothy contacts her husband, Lucas, and decides that Sophia should come to live with them in Atlanta. She believes Blanche and Rose are overworking Sophia, who is left to choose between staying at the Golden Palace or moving to Atlanta with Dorothy. Unable to choose between her daughter and the two women she thinks of as daughters, Sophia takes her belongings and runs away from the hotel. Meanwhile, Chewie is initially excited to finalize his divorce with his wife after 8 years, but he feels lonely afterwards, so Roland encourages him to begin dating. During a drunken night, Chewie marries a woman named Beverly and buys her a new car. Chewie, wanting to make the marriage work, rejects his friend's concerns that he and Beverly barely know each other.
Okay, obviously we know who played Dorothy. And actually, she goes by a new last name in this episode. It's Dorothy Hollingsworth, not Dorothy Zabornak. And obviously we know that B. Arthur plays her. But there's another person that I think we need to mention. And we've talked about him. We talked about him on When Things Were Rotten. And he just played a dining room guest. But lo and behold, who is it? Henry Pollock II. Well, the one from Webster, the one from Double Talk. Oh, yeah. Future installment Double Talk, by the way.
And also remember that Henry Pollock II was one of Betty White's teammates on that week of Family Feud episodes from 1984 against Carol Burnett and her family.
Yep. Also
played yes.
Also played Mr. Bainbridge, the drama coach, on Saved by the Bell.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that Henry Pollock II was on Saved by the Bell.
Yep.
But you know what? I bet Henry Pollock II didn't go to Harvard.
Oh, and if you think that episode has a lot of guest stars, well, I mean, we only mentioned 2. Wait till the next episode.
Yep.
Which is part 2.
Yep, part 2. Blanche, Rose, and Dorothy search for Sophia throughout Miami. They learn from a cab driver that Sophia asks to be dropped off at Shady Pines, the retirement home that she had despised. Upon arriving there, the ladies are surprised to see how nice Shady Pines has become since it was rebuilt following the fire. Despite the amenities, the ladies convince Sophia to return to the hotel, where she ultimately decides to stay, rather than move with Dorothy to Atlanta. Sophia wants to remain active at the hotel, as she felt old when she was being cared for at Shady Pines. Dorothy accepts her decision. Meanwhile, Chewie's upset that Beverly will not have sex with him yet. Ooh. And his work suffers as a result of his unhappiness. A man named Ramon, played by Miguel Sandoval, not even the biggest name on this show, visits the Golden Palace to congratulate Chewie on his marriage to Beverly, whom Ramon loves. Ramon vows to kill Chewie if he mistreats Beverly. Upon learning of this, Beverly realizes that Ramon loves her. Beverly tells Chewie she only married him to make Ramon jealous, and that they were not really married, as their priest was actually a men's room attendant. Chewie is happy to have the relationship ended, as he realizes he does not love Beverly. And remember what I said? Miguel Sandoval, big name, but not even the biggest name on this episode.
I wouldn't even say he's the second biggest name. I'd say he's the third biggest name.
Yeah. Carol Leifer would be the second biggest name. Well, actually, it would be a tie for the first biggest name, because there is a bigger name on this episode.
Oh no, this is the biggest name maybe in the entire series, even bigger than Don Cheadle. Playing the taxi driver, a young gentleman by the name of Jack Black.
I'm looking for the manager.
That purse? Where'd you get that purse?
Some old lady left it in the back of my cab this morning.
Looks like Maz. Let's see. Bingo cards, brass knuckles, pocket edition of 101 Jokes for the John. Yes, this is Maz. Where did you take her?
Well, got the log sheet right here. Let me check. Let's see. Picked her up, Golden Palace 705. Dropped her off at a place called Shady Pines.
That Jack Black.
Oh, yeah. By the way, this is the only time that we ever see the inside of Shady Pines.
Oh, wow.
The only time in 8 years of the franchise that we ever see the inside of Shady Pines.
By the way, guys, since we mentioned Jack Black was on this episode of Golden Palace, you do know that his Tenacious D bandmate Kyle Gass was a contestant on Sale of the Century, right?
Yeah, we know that because I think I've mentioned that in the past.
And you know who else was a contestant on Sale of the Century?
Chip Eston.
Yes.
And I gather, based on a certain Facebook post, he was on tonight's episode.
Oh, yes, the episode that's airing on Buzzer tonight as we're recording this. Thank you, Adam.
Shout out to Adam Needed. Episode 9, Just a Gigolo. Blanche is attracted to a handsome man, Nick DiCarlo, who's been staying at the hotel. By the way, Nick DiCarlo, played by Barry Bostwick. However, she loses interest when she learns he is a gigolo.
Oh, no.
When Nick is unable to pay his hotel bill, Blanche agrees to let him work it off in the kitchen with Chewie. Following the death of Blanche's blind date, she accepts Nick's offer to accompany her to a dance despite his occupation. Blanche and Nick fall in love with each other, convincing him to end his line of work. After Nick works off his hotel bill, he decides to return to his hometown in Indiana to work at his brother's hardware store. Blanche convinces him to stay at the hotel by financially supporting him, despite him saying he's uncomfortable with her doing so. Nick eventually decides to return to Indiana to work for his brother, then returns to Blanche when he's saved up enough money to support her. Blanche agrees to write him a check to help him get settled in Indiana. However, Rose researches Nick and learns he's a con artist. Uh-oh. He's a con artist. And his hometown does not exist.
Well, that should have been the first tip-off right there.
Yep. She forces Nick to give this check back to Blanche while not revealing he was using her so as not to upset her. Meanwhile, Vincent Vale, who's played by Phil Proctor, by the way, holds a self-help seminar at the hotel. Chewie and Roland participate in the seminar, which includes walking over hot coals. Anybody can do that. The science is not exactly as indirect as you think it is. Episode 10, Marriage on the Rocks, with a twist. Roland's parents, George and Louise Wilson, played by Bruce Young and Jeanette Dubois, visit the hotel with the announcement that they are getting a divorce. Blanche tries to mediate problems between them, but is unsuccessful as they've been unhappy with each other for the past 20 years. Roland accepts that his parents want to move on with their lives. Meanwhile, the hotel hosts local radio disc jockeys, Bill and Milton, for a comedy night. By the way, Bill and Milton are played by Tim Conway and Harvey Korman. Of course, we talked about Tim Conway last week, and Harvey Korman. Did we ever talk about Harvey?
Yeah, we did. We talked about Harvey in the Nut House.
So, known commodities.
Isn't it funny that we covered a show in the past about Harvey Korman running a hotel, and now he's in an episode of a show involving the Golden Girls running a hotel?
Yep. And Sophia wants them to pull one of their pranks on Rose. She's stupid enough to believe it. So Milton's locked in a tank of water, and Rose must answer Bill's various questions in order to have Milton released before he drowns. Rose is too late, and Milton is said to have drowned. When Milton comes to the hotel dressed as a ghost to scare Rose, she shoots him to Sophia's horror. Welcome to Florida, everybody! Rose and the other hotel employees then reveal to Sophia that she is the true target of the prank, and Milton is alive and well. Comedians believe that Sophia was deserving of a practical joke, as they considered her to be vindictive after she suggested the prank to them. Episode 11. Camptown races aren't nearly as much fun as they used to be. Blanche has booked the hotel for a group of Southern women known as the Daughters of the Traditional South. You know where we're going with this, folks. Roland, as a black man, objects to the group staying there as he believes that they are bigoted toward black people. You know where we're going with this, folks. Roland further objects to a Confederate flag that Blanche has hung in the front desk to welcome the group. You know where we're going with this, folks. Roland views the flag as a symbol of prejudice towards black people, but Blanche tells him that the flag was her grandfather's and that it represents only good family memories for her growing up in the South. Are you ready for this? Roland quits his job. Although she eventually realizes that he was right about it, and that her memories are not as happy as she thought. They reconcile, and Roland stays at the hotel. Meanwhile, a couple checks into the hotel under the name Mr. and Mrs. Smith, although Rose realizes the man used an alias and is cheating on his wife. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, played by Camille Amine and Charles Napier from The Critic. You know, The Critic. Huh?
We talked about it already.
Yep.
Yeah.
Rose dislikes the idea of people staying at the hotel solely for relations, but Blanche and Roland tell her that it's not their job to judge the guests. Nevertheless, Rose repeatedly annoys the Smiths enough to check out.
There's one name I think we need to add, and it appears there were 3 Mr. Smiths in this episode, because this person was Mr. Smith number 3. And honestly, I can't say enough about this guy. This guy, you may not know the name, but you'll know the roles that he did. Joe Alasky.
Yep.
I mean, where should we start? We should start probably with Out of This World. He was Beano.
Mm-hmm. Beano on Out of This World. Yeah, he was the crazy neighbor on Couch Potatoes.
Yeah, he was the announcer on Couch Potatoes, yeah.
He was Plucky Duck on Tiny Toons.
That's the big one. He's Plucky frigging Duck on Tiny Toons. That's all you need to say. But also, as I've shared with Greg and Chico in the past, he was doing voiceover work near the end of his career. Unfortunately, he passed a little over 5 years ago. But you can hear his voice every now and then because he's a narrator on ID series, or Discovery ID, which is what it used to be called Murder Comes to Town. And every now and then, ID shows reruns of Murder Comes to Town with Joe Alasky narrating. So multi-talented, to say the least.
Yep. Episode 12. It's beginning to look a lot less like Christmas. During Christmas time, the Golden Palace has booked a therapist, Dr. Norman Charles, played by Nick Toth, and a seminar group of recently divorced patients who are traumatized by Christmas. Charles intends to help his patients get over their bad memories by having them stay in a Christmas-free environment, so Roland and the ladies reluctantly remove all Christmas decorations from the hotel to accommodate them. Chewie is pleased by this, as he has several bad Christmas memories. Later, Chewie has a dream in which the ladies appear to him as ghosts who teach him the joys of Christmas. Rose is the ghost of Christmas past. Blanche is the ghost of Christmas presents, not Christmas present, Christmas presents.
Uh-huh.
And Sophia is the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Upon waking up, Chewie realizes how much he loves Christmas, and he manages to convince Charles's patients that the holiday is not bad. Episode 13, Rose and Fern. Remember Fern and Miles? They're back. And of course, Fern in this episode is played by Nanette Babray. And if you don't know who Nanette Babray is, what podcast are you even listening to? Miles keeps calling the hotel and leaving messages for Rose, leading her to believe he wants to get back together. Meanwhile, a woman named Fern decides to have her wedding at the hotel, and Rose agrees to help plan it. Rose and Fern bond while planning a cow-themed wedding, although Rose later learns that Fern is marrying Miles. At Rose's insistence, Miles and Fern still have their wedding at the hotel, as Rose wants to see Miles get married so she can have the closure necessary to move on with her life. Meanwhile, Roland and Blanche learn someone has been stealing money from the hotel. Rose, Sophia, and Chewie are interrogated, but Roland utterly realizes that Blanche is the culprit. Roland tells Blanche that the hotel's revenue is not her personal money to spend, and what she's been doing is considered embezzlement.
Da da da.
Amazingly enough, Blanche does not get in trouble for it.
Wow.
And next is the sort of wham episode. Are you ready for this? Because for the first 6 episodes, we've seen Oliver, and then he sort of disappeared after episode 7. Well, in Runaways, he returns. He wants to see a wrestling show, and Sophia wants to borrow the car to go downtown. Both of them are denied. They steal a guest car, and in comes Oliver's mother, Paula Webb, played by Jolie Fisher, after getting out of rehab and is ready to take back her son. Roland tells her that Oliver is busy spending time with one of his foster grandmas. Oliver and Sophia are pulled over by a police officer for driving too slow. They return to the hotel and Oliver goes home with Paula. Meanwhile, the Golden Palace is hosting a 16th birthday party for the daughter of a banker. Roland and Rose are eager to make the party a success as the girl's father holds the banknote to the hotel. Yeah, no pressure. They're upset with Blanche for spending time with her boyfriend Ernie rather than helping to plan the party, and Rose accuses Blanche of abandoning the hotel and believes that she can't handle the responsibility, but they later reconcile. Rose is starting to sound a lot like Dorothy. Am I the only one that notices this?
Yeah, I see it.
Episode 15, Heartbreak Hotel. Taylor, a man who Blanche was attracted to in college, visits the Golden Palace. Taylor had previously chosen Blanche's college roommate over her, so Blanche tries to win him over when he visits the hotel. But he ends up falling for Rose. Did we mention he's played by Dick Van Patten? Because that's important.
Yeah, you just did.
Blanche secretly sabotages one of their dates, allowing Blanche to take Rose's place with Taylor while Rose does hotel work. Rose learns Blanche sabotaged the date and eventually confronts her. Later, the women go on a date together with Taylor, who upsets Blanche by continuing to express his attraction to Rose. Blanche later realizes how many female friends she's lost due to her competitive behavior for men. Really? So she and Rose reconcile. Meanwhile, a relationship expert known as the Love Doctor is holding a couples seminar at the hotel, and Sophia wants to participate, so she convinces Roland to accompany her. Later, she reveals that she wanted Roland to participate in the seminar so he could work out issues with his own love life. And now, we come to episode 16. Senior Stinky learns absolutely nothing about life. Roland, Brad the hotel pool maintenance man, and Chewie make up the members of a successful volleyball team. Roland, the team captain, wants to win a volleyball championship trophy. Chewie, who's a poor player, is upset about always being left out of the game by Roland. Rose later joins the volleyball team, with Roland agrees to let Chewie play as well. However, Rose and Chewie play poorly. Rose decides to become a volleyball cheerleader instead, and when Brad injures his ankle, Roland decides to put Chewie back in the game. However, Chewie loses the championship for the team, and Roland criticizes him for it. They later reconcile after Roland apologizes. Meanwhile, in the B-plot, after Blanche meets with a bank employee and flirts with him, Rose and Roland makes her realize that her behavior toward men could be considered sexual harassment, prompting her to try to act more professional with men. Lawrence Gentry, the owner of an adjacent hotel, complains that the Golden Palace parking lot occupies a portion of his hotel's parking lot. Blanche dresses in a business suit and tries to remain professional while meeting Gentry, despite their attraction to each other. They devise a solution by having the two hotels share parking spaces, and they later decide to begin a relationship. Playing the role of Lawrence Gentry,
legend,
Rich Corinthian Leather.
The plane, boss, the plane, the plane.
Yeah, I think we know who it is.
Ricardo Montalban.
Again, legend.
Legendary. Legendary status. Oh, speaking of legendary status, we have a legend and a legend in the making in the next episode.
And I'd even say there's two legends in this episode.
Two legends and a legend in the making.
It's debatable, but I'd say we have two legends here.
Yes. It's called Say Goodbye, Rose. The Golden Palace is preparing to hold a stand-up comedy competition. Blanche's son, Matthew, visits the hotel with the announcement that he's temporarily quit his job as a stockbroker so he can try stand-up comedy. We should mention that Matthew is played by a young Bill Engvall. So yeah, I think he's gonna make it. I think so. Matthew intends to participate in the hotel comedy show, but Blanche does not want him to do so, as he believes he's made a mistake by quitting his job. She eventually decides to support Matthew's career choice. Meanwhile, Rose falls in love with Bill Douglas, a hotel guest who looks identical to her late husband, Charlie. Hey, Mike, you know who plays Bill Douglas?
Yeah, the person that I said was a legend besides the one that's coming up. The one and only Eddie Albert. If you don't know who Eddie Albert is, well, I'll forgive you. But he's best known as Oliver on Green Acres.
Yep. Meanwhile, Rose, they fall in love, a hotel guest who looks like Charlie. After dating for a while, Rose reveals to Bill why she initially became attracted to him, and he decides they should end their relationship and leaving. Rose only loves him for his appearance. Rose denies this, and she does not want him to end their relationship because she will feel like she's lost Charlie again. Because Charlie died suddenly, Rose did not have a chance to tell him goodbye. To placate her, Bill has Rose tell him goodbye as if he were Charlie. Meanwhile, Sophia's friend sings a song during the comedy night to cheer up Rose following the breakup. By the way, we should mention Sophia's friend, undefeated, legendary status, George Burns.
And if you don't know who George Burns is, clearly you're probably 25 years old.
Come on. Google it. We're not here to educate you.
Go watch Oh God or Oh God, You Devil. Seriously, that's what you need to check out.
Next episode, episode 18, You've Lost That Livin' Feelin'. The Golden Palace holds a grand reopening celebration to improve business. A local news team has been invited to the hotel to cover the event, and Rhodes has arranged for food critic Gerald Davenport, played by Eric Christmas, to review the hotel's restaurant. Chewie despises Davenport for previously giving him a bad review. When Davenport is found dead, Chewie worries that he may have accidentally put rat poison in Davenport's meal. Uh-oh. The news team arrives and the body is hidden in the kitchen's walk-in. When City Health Inspector Mr. Tucker arrives, Mr. Tucker, by the way, played by Stephen Root, who is a few years away from both King of the Hill and News Radio.
And don't forget Office Space. Yeah.
I believe you have my stapler.
Yeah, don't take his red stapler. Yes.
Mr. Tucker arrives unexpectedly at the hotel. Blanche distracts him while Rose stuffs the body in a large suitcase to covertly transport it elsewhere. I'm surprised they didn't do a weekend at Bernie's myself, but Rose abandons the suitcase in the lobby in order to distract the news team. Roland, unaware of the body's location, delivers the suitcase to the hotel guest Mr. Mitchelson, played by Bill Morey, who is also a legend. And by the way, owns a chain of travel agencies. Roland, Blanche, and Rose sneak into Mr. Mitchelson's hotel room and retrieve the body. However, they're forced to drop the body down a laundry chute when the news team approaches. Ultimately, Mitchelson and the news team see Davenport's body. The hotel employees pass him off as an unconscious drunk man and promote a new designated driver program for restaurant customers. Mitchelson recommends the hotel to his fellow travel agents, and the employees later learn that Davenport died of a massive coronary because sitcoms. Episode 19, The Chicken and the Egg. Blanche begins dating a cattle rancher named Bobby Lee, who wants to marry her and have children with her. Despite her age, he tells her about in vitro fertilization, but the process would require an egg donor. Simultaneously, Blanche is visited by her daughter Rebecca in time for Blanche's birthday. Rebecca reluctantly agrees to be Blanche's egg donor, despite wanting her mother to act her age. Later, Blanche dreams that she, Rose, Sophia, Roland, and Chewie are pregnant. Yes. Well, I will slow that down. Later, Blanche dreams that she, Rose, Sophia, and Roland, and Chewie are pregnant.
Good night, everybody.
Upon waking up, Blanche realizes she can't handle pregnancy and motherhood again. She meets with Bobby Lee to end the idea of having children, but before she can, he reveals that he's discovered himself to be impotent. Oh my. Nevertheless, they agree to continue their relationship. Meanwhile, Sophia borrows Rose's car, but it and Sophia's purse go missing. Sophia believes they've been stolen, so Roland teaches a self-defense class to Sophia and her elderly friends. Later, Roland and Rose learn that Sophia valet parks the car and with her purse inside at a hotel next door. Probably the one owned by Ricardo Montalban. Speaking of legends, you know who played Bobby Lee on this episode?
I was going to say it, but you go for it.
Dirk Gaudier. Jaime himself from Get Smart.
Well, also, again, from previous installment, When Things Were Rotten, he played Robin Hood.
Yep. Episode 20, A New Leash on Life. Blanche begins dating a traveling greyhound dog trainer named Charlie Sardisco, who's staying at the hotel, and Rose bonds with his greyhound. When Sophie's friend Gladys breaks her hip, She gives Sophia her ticket to be a potential guest on The Price is Right. Synergy! Sophia needs money for a plane ticket to reach the studio in California, and after talking with Charlie, she decides to bet on dog races. Later, Rose is upset to learn that Charlie will euthanize his dog if it does not do well in an upcoming race. Talk about reality writing the script. Because, again, Betty White, real big on animal rights there.
And we'll be talking about that next year when we talk about Betty White's The Pet Set.
Mm-hmm. Rose steals the dog and tells Blanche that 50,000 greyhounds are euthanized every year for failing to do well in races. Horrified by this, Blanche ends her relationship with Charlie, while Sophia ends her sports betting. Charlie takes the dog back, but later agrees to let Rose adopt it out after it does poorly in a race. Sophia skips her trip because of lack of money, and she's upset when she hears her name being called during a broadcast on The Price is Right. Meanwhile, Roland's mother, Louise, visits the hotel and begins spending time with Chewie, giving Roland the uncomfortable impression that they are dating. Roland is relieved when Louise reveals that she does not like Chewie that way. By the way, Charlie Sardisco, played by Ken Kercheval. So, we have Ken Kercheval from Dallas. We have The Price is Right. We have a Greyhound story, and we have Betty White. This episode just seems like the kind where everything just comes together, doesn't it?
Oh, and you should also add uncredited were Bob Barker and Rod Roddy.
Yep.
So you had everything there.
Episode 21, Pros and Concierge. Roland confides in Chewie that a more successful hotel offered him a job, but he turned it down because of his loyalty to the Golden Palace. Chewie tries to convince Roland to use the job offer as leverage for a raise out of Blanche, but when Roland refuses, Chewie begins to drop hints to Blanche on Roland's behalf. Blanche is unable to give Roland a raise, but wanting what is best for him, she fires him, believing this will force him to take the better job. That leaves Roland unemployed and forced to take a humiliating job renting bicycles at the airport, while the Golden Palace staff struggled to contain the chaos without him. Eventually, Blanche rehires Roland and manages to cut enough corners to give him a small raise. Meanwhile, as a cash-saving method, Blanche gives Sophia a vacation that she chooses to spend at the hotel. Not much in the way of guests here. I'm guessing this is a bottle episode, because I'll tell you right now, Dick Gautier, Ken Kercheval, and Ricardo Montalban and George Burns do not come cheap.
Yeah, very true.
Episode 22, Tad. Blanche's mysterious monthly trips to Chattanooga, Tennessee have the staff guessing that there's a special man in her life, until her mentally disabled brother Tad, played by Ned Beatty, shows up unexpectedly at the hotel, having taxied from an institution in Tennessee. Rose and Sophia are shocked that Blanche never mentioned her second brother after all these years. The staff goes out of their way to be kind to Tad, with Rose forming an especially close bond that causes Tad to declare he is in love with her. Blanche, upset, plans to send Tad back to his institution until Rose confronts her and accuses Blanche of being ashamed of Tad. Blanche is forced to admit that she has felt ashamed of Tad all these years, but watching Rose's tenderness toward him makes Blanche decide that she wants to be more involved in Tad's life, inviting him back to the hotel for more visits in the future. Who helped write this episode?
I'm guessing it's a name that I was actually going to mention at the end of the episode. I'll spoil it. Mark Cherry.
That Mark Cherry.
Yeah. And actually, I was going to mention him at the end of the episode because he wasn't just a writer of this episode, but also for the entire run of the Golden Palace, he was a supervising producer. And also he was a producer for most of the last season of the Golden Girls. And he also did writing on a number of episodes of the Golden Girls. So it wasn't like this is entirely new to him.
Right.
So in addition to being a producer and supervising producer on the Golden Girls and Golden Palace, he wrote 4 episodes of the Golden Palace, including, obviously, this episode, but also he wrote Marriage on the Rocks with a Twist, Seems Like Old Times Part 1, and Miles We Hardly Knew Ye. So he did it all. And of course, this was before he did something called Desperate Housewives about 15 years ago.
Yeah, what that be? And while we're on the subject of writers, I just found this out. 2 of the episodes, Runaways and The Chicken and the Egg, were written by a guy named Mitch Horowitz.
That name sounds familiar.
It should. He created Arrested Development.
That's where it's from, yes. So needless to say, people went on to much bigger and better things, especially in the early to mid-aughts.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we should mention to the audience, if you don't know who Ned Beatty is, again, you're probably under a certain age, maybe under 40 or 35.
Or you've never seen the Superman movies.
Well, I was going to say Deliverance, but also he made plenty of guest appearances on game shows in the late 80s, Hollywood Squares, Win, Lose, or Draw. But yeah, if you saw his face, you'd know who he is.
Yeah, and also, by the way, Ned Beatty played Lex Luthor's henchman Otis in Superman 1 and 2.
Okay, next is...
Oh, wait! I just remembered that Ned Beatty was in the 1990 Captain America movie.
Would you pull the car over, please? I think I'm going to be sick.
What?
Would you please pull over the car? I am going to get sick.
Oh, okay, all right. Hey! Captain! Are you okay? You hold it! No, wait, don't leave me out here!
And there's your not MCU connection for the evening.
That's right, we gave you an MCU connection earlier in this episode, and we're giving you a non-MCU connection in this episode.
Alright, 2 more episodes, and this one is a big one. Well, it starts as a big one, and then it kind of goes crazy. Here it is. It's called One Angry Stan. And of course, Herb Edelman reprises his role as Stan Lee Zbornak. Blanche and Rose are stunned to learn that Stanley Zbornak, Dorothy's ex-husband and Sophia's former son-in-law, is dead. The 3 women try to work through their complicated feelings toward the man. However, Stan secretly approaches Sophia and admits he faked his death to avoid prison for tax evasion and plans to flee the country. Yeah, that seems like a Stan thing to do. Sophia tells this to Blanche and Rose, who assume Sophia is in denial. After Stan's funeral, he secretly visits Sophia a final time, with both admitting that in spite of difficulties, they loved one another. His exit leaves Sophia in tears while Blanche and Rose assume she's finally accepted his death. Meanwhile, in the B plot, Roland and Chewie are excited to plan a bachelor party booked at the Golden Palace and scheme to hire an exotic dancer. The 2 men learn at the last minute that the bachelor party was really a bachelorette party, forcing Roland to provide the entertainment. Yeah, Don Cheadle dancing. Rowdy, no! And now, the last one. Sex, Lies, and Tortillas. Spring break at the Golden Palace. Roland discovers a college kid who has been sneaking friends into his room. Chewie tries to get into the Guinness Book of World Records. And Rose's granddaughter, played by Brooke Thice from Just the 10 of Us, checks into the hotel with plans of sleeping with her boyfriend. That's it. That's the show.
Yeah, there's nobody really big on that last episode, except, like you said, Brooke Thice from Just the 10 of Us. One of the daughters. You remember that show. It was a spinoff of Growing Pains. It was actually a very funny show.
Hey, did you know that one of the kids on Just the 10 of Us, Matt Schenkman, do you know what he's best known for today? Me! Oh, but I want Mike to guess, though.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I have no idea.
Okay, Chico, do you want to tell him what Matt Schenkman is best known for today?
He is the creator and head writer of WandaVision.
I should have figured there's a WandaVision connection here.
Yep.
So think about that. The kid from Just the 10 of Us directed The Sister of the Olsen Twins.
While we're on that subject, life after this series, Cheech Marin went on to Nash Bridges. Don Cheadle went on to, of course, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Betty White went on to be a frickin' legend. Mark Cherry and Mitch Hurwitz went on to bigger and better roles. And interestingly enough, Betty White was signed on to join the cast of the only surviving show of this CBS block, Bob. CBS wanted a second season, but I'm looking at the ratings. It started off with 13.0 million viewers watching. Then it steadily dropped until Seems Like Old Times Part 2, where it got a bump out of 11.1, and then Just a Gigolo, and then it continued to drop again until Say Goodbye Rose, which of course had George Burns in it. Then it went back down, and it never recovered.
I blame that Friday night time slot.
They were really, really, really trying to take out ABC, and it just was not happening.
Yeah, because this would have been what? This would have been the year, either Dallas's final year or it would have been 1 year earlier, up to 91-90.
No, Dallas would have already been done in 91. This was actually 92-93, the final season of Knots Landing.
Okay, well, still, they had something they needed to plug in. They needed a show to keep people watching CBS on Friday nights, and
it probably would have
wasn't it.
Yeah, it probably would have done better if they scheduled like Major Dad or Designing Women into it instead of having the Golden Palace lead out of it. But there you go. Because if you remember, it was the Golden Palace, then Major Dad, Designing Women, and then Bob. And the rest of the CBS Friday night lineup is just absolutely, with the exception, of course, of Picket Fences, absolutely unremarkable at any. In fact, I don't think this is on the list. I'm about to add this to the list if it's not already there.
What is it?
Johnny Bago.
No.
What the hell is that?
It's about a guy in a Winnebago with Peter Dobson, Rose Abdu, and Timothy Stack.
Oh my god. So this was like in what, 92, 93?
Yes.
So this would have been airing around the same time as the final season of Porco Lewis Can't Lose.
Weird, ain't it?
Yeah. And as we all know, Timothy Stack played Porco Lewis's dad on Porco Lewis Can't Lose.
We know.
Good friend of the show, by the way.
Special shout out to Timothy Stack.
Yeah, he knows that Porco can't lose.
What can I say except anybody want to, bring proper closure to this series?
It ran one season too long, kind of, sort of?
Yeah, kind of, sort of, maybe ran one season too long. And interestingly enough, Lifetime included it in the Golden Girls package.
Oh, yeah, it reran occasionally on Lifetime. Not that often. I only remember seeing it rerun maybe 2 times. Thank heavens my sister was like the biggest Golden Girls fan in the world, because she'd actually let me know, oh, Golden Palace is coming on. I had bigger, more important things to do at the time, specifically like solidifying my teaching career and important stuff, unfortunately. But it's a nice, interesting side note that it did get ran on Lifetime. I'm surprised it hasn't made an appearance on Hallmark or TV Land, where it seems like you can't not stumble upon a Golden Girls rerun.
And unfortunately, it's not available. I don't believe it's available anywhere. So it's a classic case of keep circulating the tapes, kids.
Yeah, and if you look on YouTube, many episodes are there. I don't know if they're all there, but there's a healthy assortment.
So, the Golden Palace. What they wanted was a continuation of a legendary franchise with legendary actresses and, of course, an Emmy Award-winning formula. Unfortunately, what they got was just a thing on TV.
Yeah, but again, it was a good show. It was a solid continuation of the franchise. It's just, like I mentioned, I think the time slot is what killed it, first and foremost.
You're not going to make any friends going up against TGIF, I'm afraid.
And you're not going to make any friends going up against Urkel.
Nope.
Hey, that reminds me. Would Urkel's reaction to the cancellation of Golden Palace been...
Oh, hold up, guys. Before we sign off, we have to play this one clip from Conan.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Go ahead. Introduce the clip, Greg.
Okay, this clip is from 2019. It's Don Cheadle on Conan talking about his memories of Golden Palace.
But you did make another show, which was a spin-off.
That's right.
Of the Golden Girls.
Correct.
And hardly anybody remembers this.
For that.
Andy, did you audition for it?
I did. It was right when I first came to L.A. It was like one of my first big auditions.
Right. And which old lady were you going to be?
Because B. Arthur wasn't in it, so maybe that was...
I was a chef with an accent, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
and you know who got your part?
No.
Cheech Marin. Which is
Cheech
obviously...
Marin got your...
Again!
Damn it. How could you and Cheech Marin be up for the same part?
You'd be surprised. Don and I have probably gone up for the same part.
Yeah, we've gone up a bunch of things.
Yeah, that's tragic. It's a Golden Girls spinoff, and I had forgotten about it, but it's called, we found an ad, it was called Golden Palace.
Of course.
And it was the other, B. Arthur wasn't in it, but the others were in it.
The other ladies were there.
And we have this picture of a real ad.
There
and
you go.
I love your expression.
Oh, my God. At the girls' hotel, the customers aren't the only ones with reservations.
Yeah. And I love that you've proven yourself as an actor 10,000 times over and won every award you can get, and then you had to do this. Oy, oy, oy. What am I going to do with these ladies?
Yeah.
What was your character?
My idea.
What was your character?
I was Roland, the hotel manager, and they all moved to Miami and bought a hotel, and I came with the hotel, I guess.
Right. I have found this isn't a joke, this is true, I have found it's the jobs that you don't get early on that save you. Or the jobs that don't work out.
Right, yeah.
That it's whether a job you didn't get or something you desperately wanted that you thought, this is going to be my chance, and it doesn't work out. And at the moment, you think,
no, that's it.
That's it. It's not going to happen for me. And then look at everything you've done since that maybe couldn't have happened if that show had gone 9 years.
Yeah, and it's so true. You never know. And it's like the roles that you took that, you see people go, oh, you were in that, and you're kind of embarrassed about. It's like that day you got that job, you were like, woo!
Yeah. No. You knew that you were going to get your rent paid. Yeah, and you were excited about it.
Exactly.
Okay, so since this is not a video podcast, you did obviously not see the image that Conan and Don were talking about, but it is in the background of Zoom right here for me in my background, obviously, and this is obviously only people seeing this right now are Mike and Chico, so I want Chico to read what is in the background of the picture behind me right here on Zoom. So, Chico, can you describe the background that's behind me?
All right, you have, in the front, you have Rue McClanahan, Betty White, and Estelle Getty, who are just ready to take over this hotel that sort of looks like the Carlisle. If you've ever been to Miami, you know what the Carlisle is. And in the back, you have Don Cheadle and Cheech Marin going basically, who are these three white people?
And the best part is Don Cheadle's got his hands to his face in the ad, like Kevin from Home Alone.
Yep, it's classic.
All right, now the ad, please read what it says.
I will tell you right that at the Golden Girls' hotel, the customers aren't the only one with reservations. It's a classic play on words, folks. I want to say that this whole thing was funny. I just don't think it was the Golden Girls.
It was like the Golden Girls light, but it did have some moments. It definitely was not. This is the thing I like about the Golden Girls and the Golden Palace, is that it wasn't afraid to go there, if you know what I mean. If you remember the episode of the Golden Girls where Rose banged the guy to death.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic episode. And by the way, that is an episode that we will cover on this podcast eventually. But in the meantime, watch Dashiell Driscoll's A Very Special Episode on Funny or Die that covers that particular episode of The Golden Girls.
I will say what Dash said. This was the 15th episode of The Golden Girls.
And they went there.
They went hard.
Hey, do you know what I learned in that episode? Do you want to guess?
I have a guess, but I'm afraid I might. I'm afraid of saying.
Betty White has something in common with Megan Morshak. Because they both a guy to death.
Oh! I was thinking of something dirty. I'll tell it to you after the show. Which I gotta end by saying, if you want to learn more about this show, you can go to our website at itwasathingontv.com, where you'll find all of our previous entries, our minisodes, our live shows, and of course, our social media feeds. Remember, we are on all the social medias at It Was a Thing on TV. And of course, you can stream all of our episodes wherever fine podcasts are streamed.
All right, so next week. Now, this week is going to be different because we have 3 episodes on tap for next week. Now, the reason we have 3 episodes is because back in October when Mike was in the hospital, we had 99 and 100 recorded and in the can, but we didn't have them released yet. And we were kind of worried about what was going to happen when Mike was in the hospital. So while we were in that panic, we decided, we're going to record episode 101, which was the Punky Brewster at the 1984 NLCS episode, as a tryout to see how we would do without Mike and just the two of us being Chico. And that episode went real well. And also the second episode that week was supposed to be the Ernie Anderson episode. So we decided to postpone that episode because we didn't feel like it would be right, since Mike was a key part in that episode with all the stuff about Ernie Anderson in Cleveland with Gallardi and everything. So we just recorded episode 101 that week. But that left us with an uneven amount of episodes. So we decided that we would finally correct that for this week by recording 3 episodes to get us back to an even amount of episodes each week. So our first subject next week revolves around a certain date in March. Now, last year I jokingly said that we were going to cover this topic in March of 2021. So I figured this would be perfect for the week where we were supposed to do 3 episodes, as it fits perfectly with the calendar, and this is a particular subject that we love very much, and also is the 15th anniversary of said subject. So that'll be the first subject we'll cover next week on It Was a Thing on TV. And the second and third episodes next week have something in common.
Yep. And I'll tell you something. It's pretty interesting that these 2 shows, the other 2 shows that we're going to cover next week, basically happened around 10 years removed from each other.
Oh, yes. These were 2 different adaptations of 2 popular shows, and you're not going to believe this, people, but both versions were absolutely terrible.
Both were terrible.
And actually, one was a U.S. adaptation of a foreign show, and the other was a foreign adaptation of a U.S. show.
And the second adaptation was created by someone who is well regarded in the television industry.
Yes. I'm not going to say the name, but I'm just going to bring up 2 shows. Sherlock and Doctor Who.
Gee, what do those 2 shows have in common with each other?
We'll let you think about that for the week, but in the meantime, we will see you next week with 3 more things on TV. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Wow!
Thank you for being a friend.
We'll travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. Your pal and a confidant. Papa, if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would See, the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a friend.
Mrs. Gruber, what happened to Jamie?
I don't know. He was such a good kid. He just became obsessed with the Golden Girls. His schoolwork suffered. He started carrying a purse. He wouldn't go upstairs in our house anymore because he was always pretending it was a ranch house. And the way he started wearing his hair and clothes, I didn't even recognize him anymore.
I recognized him. He looked exactly like Betty White.
Him and his friends made these videotapes to send to B. Arthur. I think they thought she was going to put them on the show. I tried to tell them that it was reruns.
This is the home video Jamie made with his friends the day of the accident.
Girls, I had a wonderful time tonight on my date with Tom. He's a retired pipe fitter.
Oh, yeah? How does pipe fit? Ma. Back in St. Olaf, we had terrible plumbing. I remember one winter old Sven Gunnarsson tried to take a shower, and he was frozen into a solid block of ice.
Did he die?
I don't know, but he looked beautiful in the St. Jorgen's Day Punch Bowl.